All right, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Yet Another Movie Podcast, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything relating to movies or whatever else we want to talk about. I'm Shane Wallach, and I'm with
Sean Higgins.
And today I mentioned it's a special episode because finally we are doing our 2017 ranked lists.
Woo!
So this specific episode is our top list. So this is actually going to be our top 25 films of the year. We both have very detailed lists. Any thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, both of us have scoured. We have watched several movies throughout the year.
We both made an effort to watch around 100 movies.
Yep.
We did not do as well. At least I didn't. Maybe you did.
I just got to 99. Just barely shy.
I did not do as well as I did last year. Last year I saw like 125 movies. It was crazy. I didn't see as much this year, but I did see a little over 100. Okay. So I think that gives me a decent amount of knowledge when it comes to this year of film. I saw all the major blockbusters. I saw all the artsy films I could. I missed some art house films, and I acknowledge this. There are films on our lists that won't be there because we haven't seen them. And yeah. I'm sure the same case goes for you.
That's the same for me. I will say I actually did beat my goal last year. I had 91 last year, 99 this year, so I'm happy about that.
Congratulations.
So,
yeah.
That's great. And yeah, there will be some that either haven't come to us yet or did come out, but we missed in theaters and it's just not out on Blu-ray yet, so we can't watch it.
Yeah, as you guys might know, we do have personal lives. We are busy people.
Yes.
School, work, and all that. But we try to get to theaters as many times as we can. I think we actually did pretty well this year, especially now that we made up a lot of that ground just in the last couple weeks. Sean and I have been voraciously watching movies.
I watched like 15, 20 movies in the last week.
Which is insane.
And they're all from this last year.
Yeah, so congratulations on that. So, okay, so let me give you a little idea of how this format's going to work. First off, Sean and I are going to list some honorable mentions for our best list. Then we are going to go on individually into our rankings. So it's going to be, I'm going to say my 25, Sean's going to say his 25, I'm going to say my 24, and so on. So it's just going to go back and forth. This will keep it so we're not ranting too much individually. We're going to keep it conversation, but we're also going to try and keep them short. We're going to go a little bit longer on our higher up movies just because we have to, because we're going to want to give more detail. But for the low stuff, we're just going to give a very short summary on why we liked the movie as much as we did, what it did for us, and what we loved about it. So
yeah, and hopefully this will entice people to maybe see a few films that didn't do so well too, because I certainly saw many, and I believe you did too, that a lot of people didn't see, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I will mention that when I think a movie wasn't as appreciated as I feel it should have been, because some of these movies, definitely could use more attention, but that's just the way film works,
Right.
Okay, so since I'm starting in the rankings, I'll start with my honorable mentions. Okay, so for this, I'm just going to run through them in a big run, and I'm going to list every movie I gave a 7 or over, so that'd be like a 3.5 out of 5 stars or over, just because I want to mention these. I enjoyed them enough to say they're good movies. I feel like they should be at least acknowledged. So I'm going to list them real quick and just give like a sentence of what I thought. So starting off, let's go with Thor Ragnarok. So Thor Ragnarok, was it the best superhero movie of the year? No. But was it fun? Yes. It was a fun time. It had, fun action, a decent enough story, a good villain for once, a villain that was actually kind of interesting. So Thor Ragnarok, fun time. That's all I really need from a superhero movie. Going into The Big Sick, the next one. The Big Sick, it has some problems that kept it from getting any higher for me. It's just a little weird, and I didn't find it as funny as a lot of people, but great performances in the film, and a unique setup for a rom-com. Okay. Moving on, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, a long title from first-time director Macon Blair. I know him best as an actor from Jeremy Saulnier's movies. He starred in Blue Ruin and was in Green Room as well. And let me say, he is kind of a copy of Jeremy Saulnier. The movie looks like a Jeremy Saulnier movie, but that's a good thing. I like Jeremy Saulnier. It's an entertainingly dark comedy. It's got Elijah Wood in it, which is pretty funny. So it's a fun time.
So you'd recommend it to people who like Green Room and Blue Room?
It's different. It's more comedic, for sure. It's definitely more of a comedy. But the direction style is the same. Okay. So
interesting.
Yeah, but it's entertaining. It's an entertaining, fun little movie. It's kind of a stupid comedy, but it works for me because it's well made. All right, next up we got John Wick 2. It's a fun action movie. It's not as good as John Wick, but it did a good job. It was well shot. It was well made. Keanu Reeves really rocks it as a physical action star. Have to give it to the guy. Then we got War for the Planet of the Apes. Some people might be surprised at its low inclusion. It's not a diss against the movie. I just thought it was a step down from Dawn. I could go more into that. I'm sure we're going to do some sort of Planet of the Apes thing eventually. But still, great performance from Andy Serkis. Steve Zahn, surprisingly, really funny in the movie. Woody Harrelson made a intimidating villain, so it's a good movie. Next up, I got One of Us. So this is from the filmmakers who made Jesus Camp. They did a new documentary, and it's really good. It's not as good as Jesus Camp. It's definitely a step down. It's not as compelling. It's a little more all over the place. But it's still a story that I knew nothing about, and now I've learned about, which is cool. So I'm glad I know about this group of Hasidic Jews, because I wouldn't have been able to say anything about them before watching. So it's informative, and it's still engrossing. Next up, we got Coco. Again, another one. People won't be surprised how low these are. There's going to be several of those on this list. I like Pixar. This movie didn't resonate enough for me as some of their other films. WALL-E and Finding Nemo still being, my favorites, and even Toy Story 3 is a really good example. This movie has heart, though. It's a cute movie. It's fun. It's a great movie for kids, and adults will get a kick out of it too. Some fantastic animation as well, so I have to give it to them. Real quick, Blade Runner 2049 up next. So another low ball for some people, but the movie's just slow. In the middle, it just slows down. It kind of stops, and I didn't really like the climax either. As a fan of the original Blade Runner, it just didn't live up to that to me, but it's still really well made. Got a fantastic score, amazing cinematography. So just as a technical marvel, this film really wins. Next up, we got All the Money in the World. This is the Ridley Scott other movie, the one that's good. This movie is the most notable for its performances, specifically with Michelle Williams and Christopher Plummer, who many know replaced Kevin Spacey and did a 9-day shoot where he basically reshot all the scenes, which is amazing because it's seamless.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually an interesting story. It kind of stumbles in a few places pacing-wise, and sometimes it takes a few too many artistic liberties for me. But overall, still an interesting story. Good movie. I'm sorry, that feels like a lot. I'm just going as fast as I can. Annabelle Creation. David F. Sandberg's latest movie. And funny enough, it is the sequel to Annabelle. So everyone would think that would be
prequel.
I'm sorry, prequel to Annabelle. You're right. It is the prequel to the prequel to Conjuring.
Yes.
That is confusing.
It is.
No, but what I'm saying is, here's the thing that's been proved to me by this year for horror movies. Get a good director. Mm-hmm. That's not 75% of the battle.
Exactly, it is.
Which is funny, because this movie could have been terrible in the wrong hands. But because David F. Sandberg understands how to scare people, how to effectively build up tension and dread, this movie works. It's really well directed. It's got some good child performances. Lulu Wilson's in it from Ouija Origin of Evil. So funny enough, the other surprisingly good
terrible 2014 horror film.
Yeah.
Amazing. They're both good. I like Ouija 2, or Ouija better. Blech. Origin of Evil.
You like Ouija 2
better. You know what I meant.
You like Ouija 2 better.
Yes.
Fair enough. I actually think they're around the same for me. I actually really liked Annabelle Creation. I thought it was a surprisingly effective horror movie. Moving on. Speaking of Ouija 2, we got Gerald's Game. So Mike Flanagan's horror movie from this year. Mike Flanagan is proving yet again to be one of the big talents in horror coming up. I think that this guy really knows how to do a horror movie effectively, especially one with a very simple premise like this. When I heard the premise, like, how do you drag this out to a runtime? Mm-hmm. They drag it out to a runtime, and it's engrossing all the way. A lot of people didn't like the ending. I actually kind of liked the ending. I know there's a lot of controversy about that. Not going to get into it because it's spoiler territory. By the way, this list is spoiler-free. Should have established that. But it was still a really good movie, and some great performances by Carla Gugino, is that how you pronounce it? I
believe it's how you pronounce it.
Carla Gugino, thank you, and Bruce Greenwood are both give really good performances. All right, almost done. 4 more. I got Last Men in Aleppo. So this movie is a surprising film. I hadn't really heard of it, and then I watched it in my film class, and it turned out to be a 2017 documentary. Very good documentary, actually. It's one of those documentaries that really just shows you what happens. It doesn't really take a narrative spin. Even One of Us took a more narrative spin. This one's just kind of showing you the action of what the White Helmets go through in Aleppo. And it's harrowing stuff. It's really depressing stuff. If you want to get depressed about a true war that's going on in the world, of course it is getting better now that Aleppo has been retaken. But this stuff really happened, and it's really I'm glad I saw it. It was really enlightening to me because, you know, you can't really experience what these people go through without seeing it. All right, next up we got Mudbound. So this is Dee Reed's film. It's an adaptation of a book that I haven't read, so sorry. But this one is a good film. It's not 12 Years a Slave, but it's kind of got the same sort of, you know, anti-racism type message, which I like. I think it's a great message. But it's got some really good performances. Funny enough, from Garrett Hedlund is in this. Let me make sure I got his name right Garrett Hedlund is in this, and he's a guy who just constantly tries to be a leading man and has failed miserably since Troy, and he was in like Tron Legacy, and then he was in like what was it? It was Pan. That's right. He played Captain Hook in Pan.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
But he's really good in this movie, and so is Mary J. Blige, who is up for an Oscar for a performance, I believe. She might be nominated, so
okay.
She did a great job. It's a very well acted movie. It's kind of a simple film, but it has Jonathan Banks being like the most racist person I've ever seen, and that's kind of entertaining. All right, next up, It Comes at Night. Yeah, so this movie just missed my list. It's a weird horror movie. If you like traditional horror movies, stay away from this. This is not your kind of type of movie. I'm just going to spoil this because it's a good spoiler. There is no It. Mm-hmm. Understand that going into the movie, and you might be happier because a lot of people were misled. There is no It. However, what it does do is it's more of a metaphorical It Comes at Night, as in paranoia, and it's a very interesting psychological horror film.
Yeah.
So if you like psychological horror with some very creepy dread mixed in, this is a good movie, and it's really well directed. So I have to give it to that. And Joel Edgerton's really good in it. But speaking of, I'm really starting to like Joel Edgerton just from this year.
You used to hate him.
Well, because he was in like stuff like Timothy Green
fair enough. And the Thing
prequel. Yeah, so I didn't really have much to go on.
Fair enough.
And then last on my best honorable mentions is Logan. So this one just barely missed my list. However, this movie's great. It's a fantastic X-Men movie, but it's more than that. It's a great way to close out Hugh Jackman's turn as Wolverine. I'm sure we'll see Wolverine again, but if Hugh Jackman's going to go out with a character, this was the way to do it. It's dark, it's R-rated, which is great because we get some really visceral action, which is what we've always wanted with a guy with claws coming out of his hands. We get a great, turn by Patrick Stewart as Professor X. We get a nice swan song for him, too. So we get two of the greats going out the right way. I think the movie was respectful, and it handled this type of premise really well. James Mangold definitely improved his game from the Wolverine, and I really liked the movie. Has some problems in the villain department. That's what holds it down so much. But yeah, that's my honorable mentions. Sean, I'm sorry that was a little bit long, but I just want to give reasoning.
That's fine. All right, I have a few more than 15, 3.5 star.
Just
films.
go through whatever you think is worth mentioning.
But yep, I will try not to make this too long, and I won't go through them all. But I'm going to start with The Babysitter. Now, I didn't know much about this movie. It's from the director McG, who's directed a lot of terrible, god-awful movies, so I really didn't know what to expect. But I was pleasantly surprised. It's a Netflix horror comedy, and it's about a kid who has a babysitter who turns out to be not who she seems to be at the beginning of the movie. So that's all I'll say. It is.
I'm surprised that hasn't been done before.
I can't think of one. I'm sure that it has, and I'm just not thinking of it right now. But
it seems like a simple enough premise.
I know, but in the comedy sense, it is quite funny, and this kid is savvy.
You know, that sounds a lot like The Roommate. Do you remember that movie?
I never saw it, but I've heard of it. I know a lot. I've heard a lot about it.
A college roommate who turns out not to be what they...
Yeah, well...
But this one's comedy, so go ahead.
So The Babysitter. And one of the nice things is the kid, he's not dumb. He actually turns out to be a pretty smart kid. Like, he's savvy. He's figuring out how to defend himself. He tries to find, logical ways to escape. He makes a couple mistakes, but he's, because he has to make a mistake. Otherwise the movie would be over in, 2 seconds. But... honestly, I recommend checking this one out. It just didn't make my list because there's just so many other good ones.
Fair enough.
Spider-Man Homecoming. I did like this movie, but it's not amazing. It's a perfectly serviceable Marvel Spider-Man movie.
I get it.
Oh, that was not intentional. Actually, that really wasn't. I'm sorry. The movie had some problems with just being kind of cliche comic booky. I didn't hate anything really about it. It was just kind of middle of the road. I like Michael Caine as the Falcon or Vulture.
I was going to say, that's...
Sorry, that's Anthony
similar,
Mackie. But, you know, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, he was fine. It's just, you know, story was kind of just your typical Marvel film, and I wanted a little bit more, especially comparing to the Raimi films. I felt disappointed. Only the Brave is my next film, and, you know, it's a nice, heartwarming film based on a true events of these firefighters, and I really liked it. There were just parts that felt a little cliched, which kind of lowered the rating for me, and, you know, it's not like one of the best dramas of the year by any stretch of the means, but I thought it was a fine movie and perfectly serviceable, did what it's trying to do really well. Next one's a documentary, Mansfield 6667. It's about Jane Mansfield and her relationship with Anton LaVey, the Satanist. It is a fascinating documentary. I get really into urban legends and like creepy stories, and so being also into film, it kind of makes sense that they would collide every once in a while.
Yeah.
And that era of time has a lot of weird ones in Hollywood. And this is one of those weird ones about this rumor that Jane Mansfield like got into the Church of Satan and was maybe even cursed, and that's why she died and was not decapitated. Actually, a lot of people think she was decapitated. She was scalped. But anyway, the documentary was kind of fascinating.
I don't know if that's necessarily
it's not a huge difference. It's actually worse, but it was a fascinating and creepy documentary, and it even was kind of surreal in parts where they had like actors acting out some of the real life scenes.
Okay.
So that was kind of fascinating. My next one is Super Dark Times. It's a film set in the 90s about 4 friends, and it starts off like any, you know, kind of Spielberg-y type of 4, you know, young high school boys story.
Yeah.
And then it takes a very, 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 very dark turn. And that's all I'll say. And it gets
interesting.
Quite interesting. And you see these characters kind of, their friendships just start to separate and they start to turn on each other a little bit. And it's really well done. It just didn't make my list. It Comes at Night, for a lot of the same reasons you brought it up, is my next one. It is a little slow at times, but I do implore people, see this movie because it's really great and do not expect a monster. Let me put it this way. If you saw The Babadook and were disappointed there wasn't a monster in The Babadook, yeah, you'll probably be disappointed in this.
It's a lot like The Babadook.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think The Babadook is better, personally.
I agree.
But this still is a good one. Mm-hmm. Next one's John Wick 2. I didn't think this is nearly as good as John Wick. So it was, in a sense, disappointing because I wanted it to be better.
Well, the story is more complicated.
It is.
And it's just got problems that John Wick didn't have. And John Wick has the boogeyman scene, which I love.
Yeah, exactly. I think those are the things that take John Wick 2 down a little bit. It's still a fun action movie. I just wish that they didn't overcomplicate it.
I guess you see the pencil kill, so there is that.
You do see the pencil kill this time, which is great. They didn't, but the first John Wick is such a simple premise, and that's kind of what I like about great action films. I think it's better.
Absolutely.
Anyway, my next one is Blade Runner 2049. For a lot of the same reasons you said. I really like this film. Blade Runner is a better movie. It's a beautifully shot. Production design, everything about it looks visually beautiful. It's just kind of slow in the script aspect of the movie. Although it's great seeing Harrison Ford come back and Ryan Gosling is terrific in this film. It was a quite good film. My next one is War for the Planet of the Apes. Again, yes, I know a lot of people are loving this film, and I liked it too. But when I compare it to Dawn and even Rise, it's like, it doesn't quite hit there. I kind of honestly wish they did make it more gritty and more dark. And maybe that's just because the movie kind of leads you on like it's going to go there, but it doesn't quite go there far enough for me. So that's kind of what held it back. But honestly, Andy Serkis is terrific in this film. The cast all around and the directing is good. And it's a very good looking film. My next one, we're going to disagree on this one, I know. Split. You know what? I enjoyed it. I thought it was creepy enough. It had a sense of humor about itself. M. Night Shyamalan, though, he's kind of making a comeback with this and The Visit from a couple years ago. I don't know if that'll stick, but hey, I'll give him credit. He made a halfway decent movie. I know.
That will be coming up for me.
I'm sure it will. American Made. Tom Cruise. I like Tom Cruise. I like Doug Liman.
Just missed my honorable mentions.
It was a lot of fun. It's not much more than that. It's a fun Tom Cruise action movie, and I would say I see Edge of Tomorrow over this. That's another Doug Liman, Tom Cruise movie that's much better than this, but it's an interesting real-life story about this guy who smuggled drug money, or smuggled drugs, and yeah, it's quite good in that way. My next one is Steven Soderbergh's Logan Lucky.
Also just missed my list.
Yeah, it's basically Ocean's 11 on a raceway, which is fine. And I like that Steven Soderbergh came back to make it. It's a fun film. It's like, it's not a great film. And that's a problem with a lot of these. It's like, it's good. It's really good. It's just not a great movie. Yeah. But I would say it's a fun film. Check it out, especially if you like Ocean's 11. Next one is Brad's Status. Now, this one got quite close to being on the list, but it's just missing because a bit of the pacing in the middle. But it's a really sweet film about a father, and he's kind of going through a midlife crisis, and he's taking his son to around college. The father's played by Ben Stiller, of course. And Ben Stiller does a terrific job playing this guy who's kind of looked inward at his life like, oh, it's so terrible, but then he really thinks about it. It's like, yeah, I guess I kind of have it all right. And it's kind of, the movie plays a lot with the idea of don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to the people who matter, which is your family, the people who are close to you. And it's a good lesson in that way. My next one is Coco. It did not make my list, actually, and I love Pixar too. I think I have this movie a little higher than you did, judging by your honorable mentions. Yeah. I think it's a sweet film. I did tear up a little bit at the end, honestly, like a lot of people did. It just didn't make my list, but I thought it's a sweet film about the afterlife and everything, and the animation is quite beautiful. Phantom Thread. I have only seen one other Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and I feel terrible about that after watching this and Hard Eight, and I'm making a point of, honestly, this month watching all of his movies. If I don't finish it by this month, it'll be finished by February. Yeah. Because this was an incredibly fascinating movie to watch about this romance that has so many problems. It's just like this very unhealthy relationship, but these two people just stick together because they find things that they can see that they like in each other. And I don't really want to say much more about it. It takes some turns you don't really expect, which is great. It just didn't quite hit my list. And then one more. I sadly had to knock this off. I disagree with most people on this, I guess, or at least a good chunk. Darren Aronofsky's Mother. I thought this was a very well-made, gripping, even scary at times film. And yes, it is an allegory on the Bible, and that's fine with me.
A lot of different, creation mythology.
Well, yeah, not just the Bible, although from my personal perspective, that's what I was seeing a lot watching the movie. But yeah, you can see a lot of stuff in it besides that, and I thought it was an interesting take on whatever he was doing. I thought it was creative and it was original. It was definitely original, actually, so that's what I liked about it. I guess that's my honorable mentions, so...
Nice. All good stuff. A lot of those I didn't see, so I'll have to check out some of them. I know you've mentioned that already, so there's always more to see, right?
Oh, I know.
All right, so here we go. This is launching into the top 25. We had to narrow it down to this, so these are the big ones. Starting off for me, I got Baby Driver.
So what is it you do?
I'm a driver.
Oh, like a chauffeur. Anyone I'd know?
I hope not.
What is your name?
Baby.
Yes, so this movie did make it on my list. Edgar Wright, he is a master at visual storytelling, and this movie is no exception. It's the least comedic of all his films, which is actually something I liked about it. I like drama, so you still get some comedy out of this movie, but you also get some really, really intense driving sequences, some great action in those scenes. Fantastic oneer, so I had to give it to that. I loved the opening oneer. It impressed me. Yeah, and the cast is solid. I really liked Ansel Elgort in the movie. He really delivered a performance that I could get into, even though it's very subdued. He did a great job, just carrying the film. I thought he was charismatic. I thought it was fun. Also, really liked Lily James as the romantic lead. She did a great job too, and she's just proving herself as a capable actress recently. So I'm sure she'll continue getting work. And then, of course, we get Kevin Spacey, which is awkward at this point. But Yeah, I like Kevin Spacey, and as one of his last film performances.
Maybe someday we can talk about the subject of separating the art from the artist. But
Yeah.
I agree, with
I thought you did good.
that stance.
But yeah, Baby Driver, it's just a fun movie. And you gotta have some movies on your list that are just fun movies. And that's what Baby Driver is. It's a turn your brain off, just a fun, action movie. And that's really sometimes all I ask for, if it's really well done. And luckily Edgar Wright is a really talented guy. So I thought Baby Driver was a blast, personally. Even though it had some problems, I guess my main problem was Jamie Foxx. I just thought he was really annoying in the movie. But I guess that's his character, so...
I think it's supposed to be. I'll talk more about Baby Driver later.
But to be fair, sometimes a character becomes annoying, not just the actor.
I get that,
So,
sure.
It was a little bit of that. But overall, still a fun movie. All right.
All right.
You're 25.
My number 25 is Darkest Hour.
We're facing certain defeat on land, the annihilation of our army, and imminent invasion. We must negotiate peace talks.
When will the lesson be learned? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
Nonsense. The only slippery slope.
Would you stop interrupting me while I am interrupting you?
I was very happy I went and saw this literally 2 days ago because this movie was quite better than I liked it more than I thought I would. Because it's a historical drama, and while it depends upon how they do it, usually for me to really like it. But this movie, I honestly started to be so wound up and compelled by the story, and Gary Oldman's performance is impeccable. There were several times where I had to remind myself, oh my god, is that Gary Oldman? That's Gary freaking Oldman? He doesn't even look like Gary Oldman. Several times through watching the movie. Terrifically shot. Joe Wright, you are forgiven for Pan. You are completely forgiven. Because this movie is incredibly directed, incredibly written. It is a fascinating movie. Even if this is a talking movie, even if that doesn't sound compelling, check this one out. Because one, it's based on a fascinating part of history.
Yeah.
The World War II, before America came in, what Winston Churchill had to go through and what he did to basically stop Germany from advancing, and getting the people behind him in continuing the war when it's all seemed lost. It's actually really terrific in that. And also, they talk about Dunkirk, which is a movie that came out this year.
You get
which
to
is
see
great
the
companion
political
piece. I
side
know.
of Dunkirk.
They
Yeah.
had a little shot of ships going. I'm like, hey, there's Mark Rylance out there somewhere. But yes, that was my thought.
Oh, I see Kenneth Branagh sitting on the dock.
That's exactly the joke I was making watching the movie. But yeah, this was a terrifically astounding movie. Yeah. So what's your number 24?
Yeah, my number 24, it's Only the Brave.
I want y'all to breathe in this beautiful vista, because you're never going to be able to look out into the wilds and see that pure beauty again. This ain't the greatest job in the world. I don't know what is.
What is that?
Fire's threatening homes and people's lives. I want Granite Mountain.
There it is. Your hot shots.
I just had a daughter, and I just really want to give her what I never had.
If the fire gets past our line, it goes to our town.
Burn over seconds away. It's going to feel like the end of the world. As long as you can breathe, you can survive. No one could be prouder of his boys than I am of you guys.
You did mention this film. It's a little higher on mine. I like the disaster type movies more than you. I think it's obvious, and this movie's no exception. Yeah, it's not the greatest movie of the year. It's definitely no Deepwater Horizon. But what it does is it takes some talented people, especially Josh Brolin. I really like him in this movie. He does a great job. He always does a great job, but in this movie, he's just got a lot of charisma, and I like that. And Miles Teller does a good job too. And it just tells a story of the group of firefighters who unfortunately came across a situation that was very life-threatening. And it's a harrowing story. It's a poignant film. It's got some it knows when to use, its drama well. It doesn't try to wring drama out of it. It just kind of presents it in a more natural way, which I really liked. They kind of screwed up a little bit in this film by putting way too much third-party music in. I thought the original score should have been used more.
Yeah.
And that's what Deepwater Horizon did, and I really like it when a movie just really uses its original score to its, to best amount. But it's still a really good movie. It's still entertaining. It's still tough to watch at times, but I mean, if people know the true story, they know it's a tragedy. So, I mean, it is a true story. It just happened a few years ago, actually, the Grand Mountain Hotshots. But it's still, I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it really was carried on the shoulders of Josh Brolin and Miles Teller, and they both did a really good job. So,
yeah, I agree. I think it's a good movie too. It just didn't quite make my list because too many great movies this year.
There are a lot of good movies this year.
I definitely want to see it again. That's a compliment, honestly, to it.
It is Joseph Kaczynski's best movie. It is better than
it's
Oblivion
better Tron Legacy.
and Tron Legacy.
Absolutely.
So give it to him.
Okay, my number 24 is the Netflix film Wheelman.
What's your name, man?
I'm not telling you my name, man.
I'll just call you Wheelman.
You know who this is?
I don't know you.
You're driving for me. The other two, leave them behind.
I'm not leaving them behind.
They're gonna kill you.
You recommended this to me.
More like...
Yeah, actually several... I guess it was more forced me to watch it several times.
You have to watch this movie.
So how come you haven't watched Wheelman?
I literally did that 4 times.
Randomly coming... we'd be talking about, nothing. Just random thing. And you'd be like, so Wheelman, it's a movie on Netflix that you need to see. And you know what? I'm happy I did, because this is a fascinating thriller. Right from the get-go, I was hooked and just gripped. And I wanted to see what was going to happen to this guy. It's about a guy who... He's in a car for good 90% of the movie. It gets out of the car there, 85.
Well, the camera's in the car.
The camera's in the car
That's
for 90,
the gimmick.
90% of the movie.
I shouldn't call it a gimmick because it actually really works.
Yeah,
but.
It works really well. It's not just, hey, let's just do something cool. It's the stylized and the editing. It flows really well. And it feels like you're in the car with this guy as he's supposed to be a getaway driver, but this thing goes wrong because of this guy that calls him on the phone, and I'm trying to be very vague. And it is so gripping because you just want to know, who's this guy calling? What's going on? What's going to happen to him? Because you're like, okay, he has a family. Is his family going to be in danger? All this stuff. It is beautifully filmed. It is a creepy movie at times, and it's all from a car. And it feels like you're in the car with him, like I said. And I really like this movie. I definitely highly recommend this one.
Yeah, I will be talking about that soon. All right, next up, my number 23 is The Post.
Do you have the papers?
Not yet.
This is a devastating security breach that was leaked out of the Pentagon. The most highly classified documents of the war.
The Times has 7,000 pages detailing how the White House has been lying about the Vietnam War for 30 years.
Yeah, so this is, we jokingly refer to it as the prequel to All the President's Men, but it's the prequel to All the President's Men.
It is.
It's the same newspaper. It's the news story that just happened right
This is
before
your
All the
23?
President's Men. Yeah.
I guess I can talk about it too then with you.
We both have 23?
Yep.
Oh, funny. So yeah, let's group talk about it. So what I personally loved about The Post, first of all, I'll say, I think the story is what holds it back. I think there's not as much drama here as there was with All the President's Men, so it kind of has a crutch in that way that it has to get past. But what I really liked were the performances specifically from Meryl Streep. She proves that she deserves her Oscar nominations, I swear.
I mean, it's a joke at this point to, amongst us, but God, does she deserve that nomination this year for this movie. I totally agree. She was terrific.
Really good.
And I love seeing her with Tom Hanks in a Steven Spielberg movie. Just these three titans of acting, well, two of acting, one of directing, all together to make this amazing film. And the cinematography by James Kaminski was incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bridge of Spies in that way. In fact, this movie is a lot like Bridge of Spies. It's just kind of that slow drama, which I like, actually. A lot of people might be bored by these kind of movies, but I like them. But what I really liked also is they actually found a good spot for all these little, smaller kind of character actors. Bob Odenkirk's in here. Who else was in it? Oh, jeez, don't forget now. there were a few of them that were kind of like, oh yeah, it's that guy, Bradley Whitford, Bruce Greenwood. Yeah, a lot of these, people who...
Bradley Whitford's having a good year this year.
Jesse Plemons is in it. So I joked that whoever the casting director was a Breaking Bad fan, because there are like 3 Breaking Bad actors. I'm like, this is a lot for just one movie, I swear. Yeah. Are they fans or something? But no, what it did do is it did explain the situation and in something that everyone could understand. Sean, you said that you knew nothing about it, and you weren't lost, were you?
No, I was, maybe for the first 10 minutes, I was like, okay, what's going on? And then I slowly was like, oh, that's what, oh my gosh, this is fascinating, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Light bulbs were going off, because obviously I know, like, what the Vietnam War is and stuff. One thing I will say, what makes this movie not boring is the cinematography and the editing. Not just, the acting too, and the writing, like, all of that helps, because it's like, it kind of keeps you energized as the camera's moving around and we go into different rooms and, it cuts to different characters and it keeps it more energized than like if you were in a boardroom listening to people talk.
Well, it's kind of inherently interesting. To me, the whole news reporting type thing is inherently interesting. And Spielberg made this movie, he said, because he thought it was timely, because he thought that the freedom of the press is something that's really important, especially... It's being disparaged by our president a lot. And he's like, I find the freedom of the press to be something extremely important. I'm going to make a movie and show why it is so important. And this movie does that. It really leaves you with that message, like showing you, sure, is the press perfect? No, they are not perfect. They make mistakes. But are they a very, very essential, fundamental part of our democracy and probably why we're still a democracy? Yes, they are. And they're extremely important. And it's nice to see this movie illustrate a lesser known example, because probably everybody knows about Watergate. Yeah. Not a lot of people remember the Pentagon Papers, which was a huge story of the day. So it's interesting because it kind of eclipsed by Watergate, which this movie kind of leads into, funny enough.
It's funny. The movie literally ends with the opening scene of All the President's Men.
I kind of think that Steven Spielberg's thinking, like, people should just watch All the President's Men after this movie. Like,
I think he was. I think that's what he was trying to do. Be like, hey guys, there's this other movie from the 70s. Then All the President's Men is better. Also, Spotlight, which is a completely different kind of news story, but they're similar fit kind of film, is also better. But this is a darn good one, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, again, slower Spielberg films. It's just kind of, a really well-made little movie. But if you like those kind of slower dramas, I do recommend it. Tom Hanks, of course, is not like Jason Robards. I still think he's the best Ben Bradlee, but... I'm obviously referring to his Oscar-winning performance in All the President's Men. But it is nice to see that sort of like underpinnings of what became All the President's Men. So you can actually watch these two movies together, and it does actually work, which is kind of nice, because we actually watched All the President's Men right before.
I know, it's like once it comes out, I could actually do a marathon with these two. That'd be kind of interesting.
All right. Anyway, want to move on?
This is yours now.
Yep, it is mine. Together. So my number 22 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
I only know one truth. Jedi to end.
So yes, this is where Star Wars ends up. Some people might be surprised how low it is for me, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It is nothing against the movie. It's just the fact that these Star Wars movies have struggled lately in different ways. So, starting with Force Awakens. Force Awakens was just too darn similar to New Hope. And that's the problem. I know everyone says it, but it's true. This movie, it's not similar. So, it gets the different stuff right. What it does do, though, is it relies on a lot of storytelling crutches and convenience and, just scenes that don't feel necessary to the story. It seems like... like how they're doing this trilogy, they're basically doing the pass the baton method. One director will do their style, and then they'll say, here you go. Do what you want. And then they'll grab it and they'll be like, okay, how do I make this work into my style? And then he cobbled The Last Jedi together using characters that he didn't obviously really care about. And I'll just name them. This is not really going to be spoilers, but I'm just going to name the characters. He obviously didn't care about Snoke. He's like, I don't know what to do with this character. And he obviously didn't care pretty much at all about Finn. He's like, I don't know what to do with this character either. So he's like, so then he just put something together. The nice thing about it is, and here's where I'll compliment the movie, because this is my best list, so I just wanted to get the bad stuff out of the way.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, is this on your list?
I wanted to acknowledge why it's lower, but now I'm going to acknowledge why I love it. Okay. I really like the movie because it is still entertaining. It still feels like a Star Wars movie. A lot of people say it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie. It does. It does feel like a Star Wars movie. It has the elements you want. It has Luke. Luke feels different than you might have expected, but it still feels like Luke. Mark Hamill does a fantastic job returning to the character. Carrie Fisher in her final film role. Sad I am to say that.
Gosh, yeah.
What a way for her to go out, though. If she was going to go out, I feel like this is the right way to do it. She gets more screen time this time than Force Awakens. Her character has more to do, which is nice. I liked her arc in the film. Also, I'm conflicted on Daisy Ridley because she's really good in the movie. Her character is still a Mary Sue. They haven't addressed that problem yet. So hopefully episode 9 they'll address it.
The last one, chance.
They have one more chance.
Come on, JJ.
But no,
fix it.
She is talented, and what they do with her and Ben Solo's relationship is interesting.
Yeah,
that's what keeps you invested in her. This movie had some cheer out loud moments. One specifically blew me away. It still does every time I saw it. I saw the movie 3 times in theaters, so of course I'm a Star Wars fan. The movie, I remember the first time. I'll always remember this. It's interesting seeing what the audience reacts to the most. Of course, there were cheers when the old friendly character came back from the original trilogy. But what got the most audible reaction was the hyperspace scene. And I will just say it, call it that.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. And I really mean that. I mean, just in terms of pure visual spectacle and whoa, the whole theater said a collective just whoa. People were gasping. Brandon told me a story. My friend Brandon, for you guys who don't know, he told me a story that a guy screamed in the theater and was it ruined the moment for Brandon because he broke the silence. So I had to go see the movie again to get the full experience.
That's annoying.
So for all those reasons, I still really like the movie. I'm a Star Wars fan, so of course I'm biased. I have to acknowledge that I'm biased. But I'm not putting this movie at number 1. I'm not going to say it's amazing just because it's Star Wars. I judge Star Wars movies on their own merits, just like I judge all other movies on their own merits. Of course, I have my preferences, right? I have my favorites. I still think clearly Rogue One is the best new Star Wars movie. I will stand here and defend that all day. Does that mean that they can't make a saga film that's great? No, I put all of my faith and hope into J.J. Abrams that he can close out this trilogy and kind of fix some of the mistakes they made. I'm sorry I'm talking so long about Star Wars, but it's a passion thing for me. That's kind of all I want to say because I know Sean, you have a lot to say. And I'm sure it's coming up soon on your
It'll
list.
be on my list, of course.
So I'll just leave it at that. But it's a fun movie. I definitely recommend it, even for people who aren't super Star Wars fans. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
I agree, but I'll talk about that later. Right now, I'm going to talk about a little horror movie that went to some film festivals a couple years ago and just was released this year called The Devil's Candy.
Hey, what's going on?
It's like it flowed through me. I don't remember painting this.
This is Mommy and Daddy's house. They're dead.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
I need to come home now.
We are his pawns. We are his demons on Earth. He uses us to carry out his unspeakable deeds.
It is directed by Sean Byrne, who also directed a movie called The Loved Ones, which every horror fan on the planet has apparently seen and loved, and I still haven't, and I feel like such an idiot for not having seen it. But after watching this, that's like on my Netflix queue, like Amazon queue right away, because this movie was a lot of fun. It is a creepy movie. What's it about? It's a very simple premise. It's a family of three, two parents, one metalhead daughter. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
Who move into an old house that this woman was murdered in, and their son is a lunatic who may be possessed by Satan. And don't want to go too much, but they obviously meet, and bad things happen.
Okay.
It's a fun movie. It is actually very well shot. The cinematography, I was quite impressed, and the editing. It was very nice, quick editing that actually made it kind of creepy, especially at the end. And I love how they have this metal soundtrack. Like, they have like actual metal songs, like by Metallica and Panthera. I butchered that name because of my lisp there. But
okay.
Pantera. There we go. Jesus. But they also have original metal music too, which is really nice. And there was some great set design in this film. I highly recommend checking this out, especially if you're a horror fan. It's a little unseen one. It's on Netflix streaming right now. Check it out. All right, what's your number 21, sir?
Yeah, my number 21. This should be a little shorter. Not for any lack of quality. The Lost City of Z is my number 21.
I am proposing that Amazonia contain a hidden civilization. If we may find a city where one was considered impossible to exist, it may well write a whole new chapter in human history.
Are you insisting that these savages, they are equals?
Their civilization may well predate our own. I call it Zed, the ultimate piece of the human puzzle.
This search for Zed, I can no longer bear the cost.
You've come to doubt its existence.
No. I only doubt that Zed could provide all the answers you seek from it.
This was earlier in the year, but it was actually a nice surprise for me. This is one of those type of historical epic movies. It kind of brought me back, reminding me like Lawrence of Arabia and those old epics. Obviously, it's not as epic as those movies. That's why it's lower on my list. But what it does do is it proves that Charlie Hunnam can act, and I will stand by that. No matter what shit that this guy is in certain years, he is a talented guy, and this movie proves it. So yeah, this movie is about the explorer, and I'm forgetting his name, even though I read half this stupid book. Percy Fawcett. Yeah, the book did not leave me impressed. I tried to read the book. It was a little boring. The movie does a good job of turning that around, though. So what it does well, why do I like this movie? Well, it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a dramatic retelling of his life, but it does it in a way that feels authentic. So when he's actually going around in the jungle and like exploring, it feels like a real guy doing this. It doesn't feel like contrived. You know how movies, survival stories can feel like contrived?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way this happened the way this happened. They're explaining it. It feels like this could have been what really happened. Now, of course, I think they embellish some things because they don't know the whole story, because the records are a little iffy, especially because he disappeared, and has to be addressed by the movie.
Oh, so, interesting.
Yeah, so that's the whole
I know
crux.
nothing about this, actually.
That's the whole crux of the story, is that he vanished in the jungle with his son.
Okay.
But that's actually a very little part of the movie addresses that. Most of it addresses a different expedition he made. And he basically is exploring the jungle with Robert Pattinson, is in this movie, and he is unrecognizable, actually. Robert Pattinson does a great job. I know he's in the movie Good Time. I didn't see Good Time.
I was going to watch. I didn't have time.
It has great reviews. I will check it out eventually. I'm glad that Robert Pattinson is finally getting out of his Twilight shell and showing that he can act. Good for him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Support him. But who I really liked in this movie, surprisingly, was Tom Holland. Tom Holland plays Charlie Hunnam's son, Percy Fawcett's son, in the movie, and he does a great job. He's, again, proves that he can act. He has a scene with Charlie Hunnam in the hospital, and they're at odds, they're not speaking to each other, so there's a lot of tension, but then the tension is softened, and eventually they make up with each other. It's a very emotional scene. I really appreciated that scene. It was it almost made me tear up a little bit. But yeah, what this movie does is it's very visually pleasing. They go in the jungle. There's some great cinematography. It's adventurous. It's got basically everything you want in an adventure exploration movie, and it's a true story, which is interesting. And the Emperor's in it. Yes, Ian McDiarmid is in it. So.
Okay, I need to see this movie now.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Real Life Lost City of Z, it's like, I remember a review I read, they say they don't make movies like this anymore. Absolutely true. But it's good that they made this one, because I really liked it.
Yeah, I meant to see this one. I definitely need to check it out now. My next one, number 21, is Mike Flanagan's Gerald's Game.
I don't like this. I'm serious. Stop.
I like that.
Stop it!
Are you playing?
Is this really what it takes these days?
God, how do we go so wrong? We were happy once, weren't we?
Gerald? What? What's happening?
Oh.
Gerald!
Wake up. Just wake up. It's time to wake up, honey.
5 hours you've wasted screaming for neighbors that are half a mile away, if they're even here yet.
How long do you think someone lives without water? That will not work.
You can pull till your wrists break. You're not getting out of those cuffs.
I'm a huge Stephen King fan.
I know.
It's been a great freaking year for Stephen King. Unfortunately, only 2 are making my list. The other one I will speak about later. But, yeah. What a surprise. Wonder which one that is. But anyway, Gerald's Game.
Yeah, you didn't mention... Wait, quick, because you didn't mention 1922 in your honorable mentions.
I had too many would have been honorable mentions. But
you like that one,
I will
right?
say 1922 is a good one. It's on Netflix. Check it out. It is also well shot and well acted.
Okay.
It is a nice little... It's based on a short story, and the film honestly actually works. It does feel a little slow, and that's part of making a short story into a full film. But hey, it still works. Anyways, Gerald... But, the one that doesn't work, Dark Tower. Yeah, I agree with most people.
We'll be talking about
I
that.
wonder why. Gerald's Game, though, is a compelling thriller. For those who don't know, it's about a couple, Bruce Greenwood and Carla Gugino.
Gugino, is that what you said?
Gugino, I believe is it.
Yeah.
That's how I've heard it, at least. They go to this a secluded vacation home, basically, to get away for the weekend and to reinforce their relationship. Let's say it that way. Reignite their relationship. Thank you. But Bruce Greenwood has a heart attack after he has handcuffed his wife to their bed. And so now she has to figure out a way to escape. And it becomes a psychological thriller as she faces basically her own demons. And I'll leave it at that.
Which is fantastic. And
Yeah.
I had no idea that it had that, and especially all the stuff with her childhood. I had no idea.
Oh my gosh. Henry Thomas, I will say this a little bit. I didn't know that Henry Thomas was in this. And it suddenly goes to her childhood, and her father is Henry Thomas. And then he turns out to be like this pedophile.
I did have a nitpick.
I was like, oh my god.
I did have a nitpick with that, because like when she's sitting on his lap, it looks like she's 10 feet away.
I know. Well, obviously there's reasons why, but yes, I noticed that too.
It is okay. I guess they thought it'd be a little too creepy if he was closer.
I guess. Fair enough. Like, I understand.
But actually, that scene where they're acting together on the bed, that was one of the most intense
oh
scenes.
my god, that is unsettling as hell.
The creepiest thing in the movie.
Henry Thomas is a terrific actor. He's gone on to do great things, but oh my gosh, he is a horrible father, or his character. What a creep. That's like worse. That's honestly worse than what he does on the bench.
I know, that is the worst part of the movie.
That is the worst part.
That was horrible.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, we're trying to not say spoilers, but...
Well, they don't know what it is, so we'll just leave it at that.
We're being vague enough. The ending, I agree with some people. It's a little weird. It is a Stephen King ending. Most Stephen King endings aren't great, I'll admit. But I think it sort of works. Because
Here's why it works
like the
for
final
me.
nail in the coffin. And should we say what it is? I'm
No,
trying to not say
but here's why it works for me.
All right,
it
you go
makes
ahead.
the movie scarier, because I just find the idea scary. Because...
True.
What is it? The Moonlight Man? Is that what...
The Moonlight Man is what he's called. Yeah.
And, you know, it's this creepy supernatural presence, and you find out something at the end about this creepy supernatural presence, and then honestly kind of makes the whole thing a little bit creepier to me.
I think it does, too. I think that's what makes it work. It does feel a little jarring when it is revealed, I was like, wait, what the hell's going on?
Yeah,
and then it took me a minute to realize who they were talking about. But when I did, it was like, oh, that's eerie. But anyway, this movie is very good, very well acted. Definitely check it out.
All right. So my number 20. Sorry, we're trying to make these fast, but sometimes there's a lot to say. So my number 20 is Wonder Woman.
It is our sacred duty to defend the world. And it's what I'm going to do.
So this is surprising to me. I didn't even expect this going in. This is my favorite comic book movie of the year. As everyone knows, may know by now, I'm not the biggest comic book movie fan. Sean, you are definitely a more comic book friendly moviegoer than I am.
I will obviously talk about Wonder Woman later on this list.
Yeah, but I really liked Wonder Woman. First of all, I have to acknowledge Gal Gadot. She does a fantastic job as Wonder Woman. She definitely disproved all the haters and all the people who are like, oh, that Fast and Furious chick? Why would you cast her? You know,
to be fair, she's not great in the Fast and Furious movies.
No, she's not. But she definitely has the range she needs to play Diana, and that's great. This movie is another origin story, but it works. I think it's a simple movie in its core, but it's cool because we finally get to see like a World War I type movie. Mm-hmm. They don't make World War I movies anymore. Not since World War II happened.
It's true.
It's funny to see World War I again in a comic book movie, but you know what? I'll take it. It doesn't fall into the pitfalls that Captain America, the First Avenger did, making this like weird comic booky universe where there's security cameras in World War II.
That is dumb.
Really stupid. This is period accurate. There's obviously some fantasy elements, which, it's about a princess in this island of Amazonians.
Fake island where women apparently never get old or something.
She's the daughter of
they live for
God
centuries.
Essentially, there are fantasy elements. But what I really liked about it is not only does she have really good chemistry with Chris Pine, who's the other lead of the movie. This movie's really funny. But here's why it's so high, is because it has probably one of the best scenes in any comic book movie ever. And it's been a lot talked about. You might know the No Man's Land scene. It's been endlessly referenced for good reason. It is fantastic. It is an emotionally swelling scene. It comes in the middle of the movie. But it really works because Patty Jenkins knew that superheroes aren't all about what's going to get us to the next plot point. It's about helping people. That's what superheroes are about. DC has kind of forgotten this in movies like Man of Steel, where
Superman kills more people
Superman
than
kills
Zod.
more people.
Zod should be the hero, honestly.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like he doesn't do a lot of saving in that movie. And then it's funny, in the later movies, they did like these stupid montages. Look, Superman helps people.
Oh my god.
And it's
like they're like, they almost feel annoyed to have to do it, almost.
It's like, don't you remember the good old days in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films when the superheroes would actually save people?
Yeah, or if just talking about DC, the old Batman movies or the Superman movies from the 70s.
It's not all about fighting bad guys. They actually save people sometimes. And that's what this movie brought back. I loved that. So yeah, and a fantastic score. Really good direction by Patty Jenkins. She shows that she deserves to be here. And I don't know why it took her so long to get another project after Monster.
I know. It's just
by the way,
how long that took.
Watch Monster. It's a fantastic movie. I'll just leave that out there because it's great.
Coming from the guy who loves Silence of the Lambs, and I still haven't seen Monster. I feel horrible.
It's a true story too. So.
I know.
Eileen Wuornos, what a creepy woman. Yeah, so anyway, Wonder Woman. Great movie. Really impressed me. DC, there is a ray of hope.
Very small ray.
Very small and diminishing as we speak.
Well,
but still there.
There's another movie we'll talk about, I'm sure, on another list.
Oh, yeah.
But
we'll be talking about something else, too. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll talk about Wonder Woman later, but my number 20 is Molly's Game.
I'm Molly Bloom. Do you know about me?
I read your indictment after I got your call last night, and I bought your book.
Do you understand that you are charged with operating an illegal gambling business?
Are you taking me on as a client?
I don't think I can convince my partners to take a flyer on the Poke Princess.
If you think a princess can do what I did, you're incorrect. I'm getting that you don't think much of me, but what if every single one of your ill-informed, unsophisticated opinions about me were wrong?
I'd be amazed.
Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut. He is, of course, a very famous, very talented screenwriter who worked on Social Network and Steve Jobs. And, sorry, Shane just fell out of his chair.
Trying to scoot it back, it didn't work very well.
And other good films like A Few Good Men. And here he's directing, and his directing is very good. He doesn't quite, I don't think he's found his voice with directing, his real style yet, but hopefully he'll make more films. However, what really sells this film are the acting. Jessica Chastain, this is one of the best performances of the year. She is terrific as Molly. This is based on a true story, of course.
Yep.
And the writing. Aaron Sorkin, of course. I mean, duh. The writing is impeccable. It's terrific. It is gripping, and it carried me through this journey, and I wanted to, because I went in blind. I try to look up, if I'm going to look something up, I look it up after the movie, because I'm like, I want to at least enjoy the movie as a movie, and then later on see if they, screwed anything up or whatever.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason. But I found this movie really interesting. I wanted to see what was going to happen and know a little bit more, and there's just great dialogue, even really funny dialogue from both Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, who is also terrific in this film. I really like this movie. I'm sure you're going to talk about it later, so I don't want to steal it all from you. It's a very, very terrific, well-made drama. It is not boring at all. Check this one out.
Absolutely agree. I will be talking about it. Next up, number 19, we have The Wall.
If I were you, I would start talking, Isaac.
What do you want?
I want to get to know you.
I get one shot. No. Second you touch that rifle, you're dead.
This is true. When this is over, his family won't recognize him.
Scope is an extension of my eye.
You're fading. You're fading.
How fantastic.
The trigger is an extension of my fist.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The rifle is an extension of me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I strike you down.
I know where you are now. Bang.
One of the surprising inclusions of this year, Sean and I went to see this movie. I wasn't expecting too much. It had all right reviews. It was all right, Nobody was seeing it. Nobody was talking about it. Wow. This movie impressed me. So here, let me just go over what was great about this movie. Let's start with the actors. Specifically, Aaron Taylor Johnson shows this guy's talented. This guy has potential as an actor. I know everyone's hating on him still, is this kind of, he's a tryhard. He's been there, done that. He tried.
What, from the Kick-Ass movies? What are people... I haven't even heard about this.
Yeah,
really.
well, people just don't give him a lot of attention.
Oh, that's sad.
That Godzilla guy. It's
okay.
But when I saw him last year in Nocturnal Animals, I was like, wow, that was a great performance. This guy, there's something to him, And this cements that. He is fantastic in this movie. He has to carry this movie almost on his own shoulders. The movie is 90% just him. And that's impressive. No matter what actor it is, it's really impressive. Like we talked about Carla Gugino just earlier. When an actor or actress has to carry a majority of a movie on their shoulders, that is tough. It's really hard to act against yourself. And this movie, he is basically talking over the radio to a sniper, an enemy sniper, and their dialogue is very interesting. The script is very well written. There are multiple sides to this conflict, and you get to explore that. You get to explore their different perspectives, their different worldviews, and suddenly the enemy stops kind of seeming like the enemy so much. It breaks down those barriers. Funny enough, it's called The Wall. I think that's almost intentional. It's kind of breaking down the wall, literally and figuratively, between these two men who are fighting this very battle for their lives, but also, for their ideologies. Also, John Cena does a great job in this film. He makes an appearance, and he's really good. I think the guy can act. I didn't see Daddy's Home 2, but, besides those dumb comedy movies, I'm saying the guy can act. Okay. But also, I want to really bring out Laith Nockley, because he has only a voice role, but he's simultaneously creepy, and yet you kind of have to give him like some respect because what he says, is very interesting. And I'll just say this. I'll end with this. There is something you figure out about what the wall is that completely upends and upturns your viewpoint of who is right and who is wrong. And I'll just say that. It is a very interesting detail and something that was really clever. And I'm glad the film did this, because this is what turned a good movie into a great movie, is this type of subtext. I love subtext and I love deeper meanings in a film. This movie does it. I have to mention the ending. The ending's really stupid. It's like the studio tacked on a dumb ending because they're like, oh, this isn't exciting enough here. This stupid ending that doesn't fit. But you know what? I forgive it. I'm not going to let 30 seconds ruin, almost 2 hours. It's just not fair to the movie. So I loved The Wall. I think it's a fantastic war film. If you like war movies, and if you also just like dramatic, thrillers, this is definitely a movie for you.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. Maybe I'll like it even more on rewatch. I definitely have to see it again. It was a chilling movie, for sure. My number 19 is a little more upbeat and fun. Thor Ragnarok. Here we go!
I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death. What were you the god of again?
I make no apologies for being a Marvel fan, for being a comic book movie fan. I do try to be discerning, but Thor Ragnarok was just so much fun. It was exactly what I wanted from a Thor movie. Finally, we got an amazing Thor movie. It is hilarious. Thor is hilarious. Mm-hmm. No spoilers because it's in the trailer, and I wish it wasn't, but Hulk is in this movie, and Hulk is hilarious. / Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo, again, terrific acting.
When I think specifically when Mark Ruffalo comes into the movie, it gets even really funny because just seeing his reactions.
Yeah. Now I haven't read the Planet Hulk comics. I know a lot of people compare it to that and say, yeah, it's kind of like Planet Hulk. That's cool. Makes me want to read Planet Hulk. So, but just as a movie, it looks great. Jeff Goldblum also is in this. Not as a cameo role, which I like because I actually like Jeff Goldblum as kind of a interesting comedic presence. I guess I'll say it that way. But honestly, the directing was impeccable here. This is a great lead-in to Avengers Infinity War. It makes me even more excited for that. The stuff they do with Thor's character, the way they change him, was very interesting, so I can't wait to see how that plays out. And I will mention, because I love Led Zeppelin, I gotta mention this, use of the Immigrant Song during the fight scenes was kind of awesome. And just from like a just pure adrenaline junkie self, like just baseline fun, that was amazing to see Thor whack bad guys with a hammer. Yes, I know that sounds childish, but I don't care. It was fun.
Well, there's a couple things I also want to mention real quick, because I'm sure you agree. First of all, the comedy is really spot on in this film. It's a funny movie. And second of all, they have the big flaming alien guy, but they use him in a way that hasn't been used.
He's a joke, which is great.
Which is fantastic that he's just used for total comic relief.
He's just like Thor's like, oh no, I'm turning around. No, I swear, I'm listening. I got turned
around. Hold on. And the chain slowly turning.
That's a great opener. It was and I love that he comes back at the end, then Hulk jumps on him and starts attacking. No, Hulk, don't! But big monster.
For once in your life, don't smash!
I love that. It's great.
I also really liked Carl Urban in this film. I actually thought he was a good character.
Good, yeah. No, absolutely.
For his little bit that he had. Also, the message is kind of nice. The home isn't a place; it's people.
No, I like that.
So it's simple little message, but I liked it.
Yeah, hopefully Avengers Infinity War will... If Avengers Infinity War can be at least this fun, then great. Then I'm excited. So, yeah, that's my number 19. Okay, what's your number 18?
My number 18 is The Disaster Artist.
So there's this guy, Johnny, a true American hero, to be played by me. He has it all. Good luck, many friends, and also maybe Johnny is vampire. We'll see.
This set of the alleyway looks exactly like the real alleyway.
That's right.
Well, why don't we just shoot in the real alleyway?
Because it's a real Hollywood movie.
No? Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Action!
I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
So, the movie based on the very famous, by this point, one of the best worst movies of all time, The Room. Yes, I'm sure everybody has at least heard of The Room. First of all, let me recommend The Room. It is a fantastically funny movie.
I will second that recommendation.
Please go see it. So there is that. But let's talk about The Disaster Artist, because The Disaster Artist is a surprisingly inspiring, like funny yet emotionally fulfilling film about following your dreams. And you know what? That's what Tommy Wiseau is all about. So I think it really captures his spirit. You know, it really does that really well. James Franco's turn as Tommy Wiseau is Oscar worthy. I'll just say that. He's really good as Tommy Wiseau. It's one of the best, some of the best I've seen James Franco. I loved his role. He captured the strange ridiculousness of Tommy Wiseau perfectly. It's funny to see somebody being nominated for an Oscar who's just considered one of the worst actors of all time. So it's just kind of a funny irony for that. But
please nominate him Oscars so Tommy Wiseau can go to the Academy Awards.
But what surprised me the most is the story is just fascinating. You know, how these two people met. You know, where's this guy from? Why is he so strange? What were his antics like? And of course, the filming of the movie is just kind of like a whole weird story in and of itself. Yes. There's a lot of details like that I really liked. I mean, I know a lot of people call this movie a little bit standard. I agree. There's a lot of things that aren't really that special. The technical stuff is fine. It's not amazing, but I think what really carries it for me is James Franco's performance and the story itself, because the story is really strong. The story is interesting, and if you're a fan of The Room like I am, you're definitely going to get a little bit more out of this film. So I will say that. Even though you don't need to see The Room to like this movie, I would definitely recommend seeing it first, because you will get so much more insight into what the heck that movie was all about. You know, what the heck this man is all about. Because it's a really fascinating story, and it just shows that there's a lot of potential for movies like this to tell really kooky, weird stories about these weird people. You know, sometimes weird people are interesting that they can carry a whole movie just on their shoulders, you know. So I really like The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, it'll be on my list as well. I'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But absolutely. My number 18 is a little film that I hadn't heard about till recently. Again, Ingrid Goes West.
Oh my god, it's Ingrid Thorburn. I thought she was in an insane asylum.
Live in the sunshine, swim in the sea. Hashtag California.
LA is the best. I'm making a ton of new friends. You should totally follow me on Instagram.
Are you an escort or something? Suspicious.
Is that a tree? I'm calling about a lost dog named Roscoe.
Hi, I'm Taylor. Have we met before? No.
Okay. It's directed by Matt Spicer. It is his first film. And it stars Aubrey Plaza as a woman who is obsessed with Instagram and following people. And she is a stalker. She's an internet stalker. And the way she's portrayed, it's interesting because you get inside her head. And you're like, she's doing wrong. Because she starts to stalk Elizabeth Olsen's character. And starts getting obsessed with her. And she works her way into Elizabeth Olsen's life where they actually become friends. And the way she does it, she kind of connives her way into her life, so you're like, she's doing wrong, but you actually feel bad for her, especially at the end. The end is like, it's like really sad and tearjerkery. I won't get much into it.
So not creepy?
No, it's like a dramatic dark comedy is the best way to describe it. And you're like, you kind of see like she just doesn't know how to act with other people and interact and actually be social. And so she's alone. And I can reveal that because that's, you know that from the beginning. You feel a little bad for her, even straight out, even though you know, yeah, she's creepy, and if you met someone like this, yeah, you'd be more creeped out than sympathetic, obviously. But it's a very interesting way to do it, and I think it's an incredibly made film. Honestly, it's a film you would really like.
I've heard.
I'm personally recommending this to you.
I will check it out eventually, yes.
But Aubrey Plaza, she's best known for Parks and Rec, and this is her at her best. She's terrific in the lead role, and Elizabeth Olsen is really good too.
as she has consistently shown recently.
Absolutely.
I forgot to mention, you mentioned directors. It's a good thing we do. The Wall was directed by Doug Liman. I have to mention that because I think he's really good.
Yeah, I was surprised.
He's really good at action movies. Well, there's so much to talk about,
No, fair
but
enough.
he did a great job, and I just want to make sure I'm mentioning directors. So, okay. Are you done? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
What's your number 17?
My number 17 is It, 2017.
She's all ready, Captain.
Thanks, Billy.
So, yeah. This movie was probably the one I was really unsure about. Because the trailers, I was kind of divided on them. I'm like, oh, they're not bad, but they're not great. Just trying to figure out what this movie was going to be like. Obviously you still have the TV version in your head, and you're like, is that the best they can do? No, luckily it's not. I think by any reasonable human being, this is definitely the best adaptation of It.
Really?
Let me start with the actors, because this is very important. This is a movie led entirely by children. It is a cast of kids, and you follow these kids. In that way, it's very reminiscent of classic Stephen King, like Stand By Me. And I really liked that, Stephen King has a interesting way of writing kids. He does it realistically, which is nice. These kids swear. These kids talk like actual kids do. Thank you, because this is how kids actually behave. And I'm really happy that this movie did that, because it gives us the kind of fun, realistic vibe to it. They transplanted the story to the 80s, which I'm fine with. I don't have any problems with that. I actually kind of like that setting. It really kind of works well because Stephen King is so well known for his 80s work. So
Watch Stranger Things.
It was
for
written.
Future confirmation.
It was written in the 80s too. So
yeah.
But so let's bring up some of the actors. I think Jaden Lieberher, he's a talented kid. He really is. He did some good, did some bad this year.
Thank God he was in this, because I saw his bad. Let's just say that.
But he impresses for sure. Even from Midnight Special, I thought that kid was talented, and he still shows that. Finn Wolfhard's in this. Really funny character in this movie. He's almost my highlight just because how much I laughed at his character. He was really funny.
Beep, beep, Richie.
Sophia Lillis as Beverly, she's really good. Like, she's legitimately like a really good dramatic performance in this film, and I could see her going places after this. But all of the kids do a good job. And then I also have to bring up Bill Skarsgård, because you have to not be... oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Please tell me.
Freddy Krueger?
No, you have to not be from the original It.
Sorry, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, thank you. You can't be Tim Curry, right? You have to go your own way, because otherwise it's just going to seem like a Tim Curry impression, right?
Mhm.
And that's become kind of a joke these days. It's kind of a joke, and it's not scary anymore. It's just Tim Curry as Pennywise. No, Bill Skarsgård is terrifying as Pennywise, and that's what really got me into this movie. That's why it's as high as it is. This movie's scary. It is. The first 5 minutes, as I mentioned to Sean actually during our pre-recording, it's probably the best opening of any movie this year, just in terms of pure visceral feeling. It instantly establishes Derry very well. It establishes the universe. It feels like a whimsical, weird fantasy land that Stephen King kind of has, but also it feels grounded, which is nice. And fantastic opening. I really liked it, and it really gets you into the movie. The movie is a bit uneven at times. Not every single scare works, but luckily the movie overall hits you with enough scares that keeps you on your feet and on the edge of your seat. And that creepy flute playing thing, that still scares the crap out of me.
Oh God!
So yeah, I was definitely on that side, that I was like, okay, this would be my greatest fear too. Yeah, and the movie changed, I think, the right things from the King adaptation. It took out some stuff that would have been hard to film and kind of made it a little bit more of its own thing, which is good. I'm not opposed to adaptation. I feel like all books need to be changed.
Even as someone, I read the book as well. I actually didn't finish it in time in the movie. I will before the next one, and I agree. I think it's fine that they change stuff. Yes, are there things in the book that I would have loved to see realized on film? Of course there are. There are great sequences in the book, but that's fine. They had to change it because of the setting. I will talk more about it later, of course.
Later. Yes. No, but I will also mention the technicals are solid. Andy Muschietti, he also directed Mama. I didn't see that.
I did see Mama, and I will say about it, the writing is the worst thing. The directing is not bad.
Okay.
So I remember actually watching that movie and go, I would love to see what this guy does next.
Del Toro produced that one, right?
He did.
So he must have had a little bit of influence on his style.
It's not bad.
Because he does seem influenced a little bit by Del Toro.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely.
What I will say is, my biggest problem with the movie is you have this great score by Benjamin Wallfish, and then this movie feels the need to inject music. And I keep talking about this problem. I think it's a prolific problem in the film.
Well, you don't like New Kids on the Block?
That was just weird. There's just some weird jokes in this movie too that don't really hit.
Yeah,
don't really land.
I'll give you that. That's a preview for me.
Yeah, and then I still don't get the ending. I've seen this movie twice, and I'm still trying to figure out why they changed the ending. Obviously not the ending of the book, because that would be the adults, but the ending of the kid's story is different, and it was a little confusing to me. I'm like, wait, what?
They had to change the part of the ending of the kid's story, but I think I know which part you actually mean.
The floating.
Yes.
Yeah. That was weird. I don't remember that in the book.
I think they were just trying to visualize they all float thing.
Sure, I guess. I didn't really get it, but sure. But overall, scary movie. Absolutely thought it lived up to the book in every way I wanted it to. And I definitely recommend it as one of the better Stephen King adaptations ever made. So
it definitely is one of the better ones. But hey, what are we comparing that to? Children of the Corn 5?
Well, I wasn't comparing it to Children of the Corn 5. I would not make that
The Wonderful
comparison.
Graveyard Shift? Oh, that's a great movie. Anyway, my number 7... Graveyard Shift. I just brought that up. Okay, sorry.
You did.
Number 17 is a alien type of horror movie, Life.
We're looking at a large single cell, biological. I'd hate to jump the gun, but I think it's time. We're looking at the first proof of life beyond Earth.
You finally a daddy? It's gonna be a big custody battle over this one.
It's beautiful.
You!
No, you're not going.
Get your goddamn hand off! What are we gonna do? There's a bag there! Why call us out the window? And your poor
Now, a lot of people were comparing this to Alien, and rightfully so. It is semi-similar to Alien. However, that goes away pretty fast because, one, it is in a space shuttle orbiting around Earth. It is...
Space station.
Space station. I'm sorry. You're right. And that's what makes it feel a little bit more dangerous. You have a great cast with... of course, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Rebecca Ferguson. And Ryan Reynolds, although he's not in it too much, I won't say what happens to him. But it honestly was an unsettling and scary movie as we see this creature grow and grow and grow. And again, yes, it's similar to Alien in that way. But it plays a lot with... It plays with this different idea of the creature design and everything, which really changes a lot. And... the best way to describe it, I guess, is a combination between Alien and The Blob. Maybe it's a good way to kind of describe it. I don't know. I'm trying to describe it without giving anything away. Maybe I shouldn't even try and just let you see it for yourself because it's a really cool design. And the acting is terrific. I'm so happy they got this talent behind this movie because we have terrific actors. And they act like real scientists, which is nice. But then they also act like people. So they make mistakes, but they're not like... Prometheus level dumb mistakes where you're just like, okay, no scientist would ever do this. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, they're in the heat of the moment where they're being chased by this creature that wants to eat them, that has killed some of their friends already. Okay, you're allowed to make a few just human mistakes. And the ending, without spoiling it, is scary as hell. It is terrific. I loved it. I won't say more. but this movie was very beautifully shot and unsettling. I wish more people talked about it, honestly. This was underrated this year. And I was definitely saying, check this out. And no, it's not a prequel to Venom. Stop making this stupid fan theory, please. Jesus. All right. What's your next one?
I'll shut up about that one. That will be coming.
All right.
Yeah, my next up, number 16, is Mother.
Please, come in. Hello.
Hello. He's a stranger. We're just gonna let him sleep in our house. Hello. Hello. Did you know he had a wife?
They've come here to see me.
Come quick!
All I'm trying to do is bring life into this house. Open the door to new people, new ideas.
You give and you give and you give. It's just never enough.
So yeah, this was a tough choice, like which is the better horror film, It or Mother? And I eventually gave it to Mother, and here's why. The first half of the movie, I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is the weirdest movie ever. And then I finally started putting the puzzle pieces together. I'm like, oh, I see what it's doing. And I didn't read anything about this. I was just figuring it out on my own. But the fact that this movie doesn't hold your hand and doesn't babysit you and it's not like, oh, you know, you got to figure, you know, oh, we got to tell the audience what we're doing.
Let's spoon feed the audience what we're doing.
I think here's why I think a lot of people didn't like it. I don't think they got it. But once I got it, I thought this movie was brilliant. I like these kind of allegorical films. I think they're interesting. And when allegory is done right, it can be, you know, a really fascinating way to examine a narrative. And this way, I think it's fair to say what the movie's going for, because I think it's been said in interviews, and I don't think it's going to ruin the movie. I think it'll actually help you going into it. Jennifer Lawrence plays the lead character that's supposed to symbolize Gaia, or Mother Earth, and she has her kingdom being her house, right? And then things start happening to her house because she is married to God.
Benicio del Toro. Wait, it's not. Shit. Why am I saying no?
I'm gonna let you just sit there for a
no,
second.
It's wrong. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Javier Bardem. She's married to Javier Bardem, who is definitely not.
I'm sorry. It is 3:30 in the morning right now, and my brain just farted, I guess.
He's definitely not Benicio del Toro.
Yes, he's not. He looks
Anyway,
nothing like him. Anyway,
let's talk about Javier Bardem, because yeah, he's really good in this movie. He plays that perfect line between, is this guy crazy or is this guy, you know, on her side? And and then when you examine the allegorical ramifications of that, it becomes even more interesting, and you start to understand his character, and that's fascinating. I love that. Of course, you get Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer, who play pretty major roles too. They're both great in their roles. Yeah, and overall, I really liked this film. I liked its allegorical take, but let's get to the end, because the horror stuff, when it hits, it is creepy to me. I am an unabashed claustrophobe. If a movie makes me feel claustrophobic, it will get under my skin. This movie did that. I was so claustrophobic watching this movie. I felt what Jennifer Lawrence's character was feeling in this film. That was just the utmost creepiness. And I really liked it. Yeah, I just overall, I really appreciated the you can just mute the computer.
Yeah, it's alright. That was on.
I really appreciated the allegory. I really appreciated the storytelling. The cinematography was really good. Darren Aronofsky proves that he can do Bible stories better than almost any other filmmaker. So good for him.
He's an atheist who does better Christian movies than the Christians.
Yeah, but
and I said, this as a Christian. It's true.
But yeah, I really liked Mother.
Yeah, I did too. Just not as much as you, but hey, I still enjoyed it. My number 16 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
This movie it's divisive, and I see why. This movie does have some structural problems. The candle bite sequence, like everyone else in the world has said, it's completely pointless, and it's horrible, because I like the character Finn a lot from Force Awakens, and he does nothing in this movie. And even, without giving away what it is, when he tries to do something, it is ruined by someone else. And I won't say more, but it's really stupid. However, I love the stuff with Rey. Daisy Ridley, again, is terrific as Rey. And her learning a little bit more about the Force. Yes. Is she Mary Sue? Yes. Is that annoying? Yes. Yes, it is. However, I love her banter with Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker yet again. Coming back and blowing me away with his acting. He is terrific. Yet again, it was great to see him. And you mentioned there's a character that comes back. I won't say who, but I was very happy to see that character. One of my favorites in all of Star Wars, so it's great to see them. And, God, the visuals of this movie were terrific. I love the opening space battle with Poe Dameron flying around the ship. And what the heck is the ship name?
Dreadnought?
The Dreadnought, thank you.
Funny, one thing I didn't mention, and I think you're about to, is the comedy in this movie.
Yeah. The comedy. Now, I think one of the few comedies that it's funny, but it also doesn't work at the same time is the your mama joke at the beginning, where he's like, please hold. Like, that's a really funny scene until you realize, wait, they don't have phones in a galaxy far, far away, but whatever.
Which I've heard people complain about, and I don't understand
it's a nip. To me, it's a nitpick. To me, it's like,
I don't
it's
really
so
understand
funny.
the problem, because, I mean, they're using a communicator. Obviously, you'd have to hold for people on
that's true. You know what? Never mind. Maybe it's not so bad.
I don't understand why it needs to be a phone.
All right, fair enough. I guess I didn't think of it like that.
People just overthinking that.
Sure. And like you said, I love the stuff with Rey and Ben Solo, and what we learn a bit more about Ben and his training with Luke, as it originally was, and why he may have turned to the dark side. And what they do with his character is terrific, and it makes me even more excited to see episode 9. I hope they do something good with it. I hope Disney doesn't freak out because of the backlash this movie's gotten.
It has a 49% Rotten Tomatoes.
I know, that scares me about episode 9, but, like, there's this little part of me that is legitimately praying that Disney will remember the Three Bears story and take that to heart with the Star Wars trilogy and find that happy medium in the middle, like, just right Star Wars.
Kathleen Kennedy and the Three Bears.
Yes, exactly. The new iteration of the Three Bears story for adults, I guess. But anyway, no, this movie, though, was a lot of fun, and yes, I teared up at the end when we see In Loving Memory to Our Princess, Carrie Fisher, in the credits. Oh my gosh, that was great. And yeah, Carrie Fisher is terrific. It was great to see her in her final role. I have no idea what the hell they're going to do with her character in the next one, but hey, I really like this film.
All right.
So,
number 15. Let's keep hammering through these. I know this list is getting long.
Let's try to get this going.
Yeah, so Phantom Thread, my number 15.
My brother can feel cursed, that love is doomed for him.
I don't like the fabric.
Maybe one day you'll change your taste.
Maybe I like my own taste.
Just enough to get you into trouble.
Perhaps I'm looking for trouble.
Stop. There is an air of quiet death in this house.
You're not cursed, you're loved by me. Stop playing this game.
What game? What precisely is the nature of my game?
All your rules and your clothes and all this money and everything is a game.
This was an ambush.
Stop.
Are you sent here to ruin my evening and possibly my entire life?
Stop it!
I really like this movie. Just saw it today, actually. Glad I did. Let me say, as a final farewell to Daniel Day-Lewis, if this is in fact his last film role.
As I said to you earlier, he is the Rolling Stone of actors. He just keeps going on his farewell tour and then coming back.
Yeah, we'll see if he's actually serious. Maybe he'll come back one day, but assuming this is his last role, I think it's a great way for him to go out. He plays a very complex character, morally and ethically and everything else. He's just a character you kind of like and you kind of hate at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. He's very fascinating. He's definitely a great artist. I love when he does his work in this film. It's very fascinating to watch him. Daniel Day-Lewis does a great job of making him look like really involved and passionate into his art, which is what a lot of artists are. He's kind of like that, that starving artist type character, except obviously he's very successful in this movie, but very focused on their work, not much else. But let's also talk about the other two actresses who I didn't know going into this movie. Leslie Manville and Vicky Krieps. I think I'm pronouncing those right. I hope so. But they play both his sister in the movie and his love interest. And these two are at battle with each other over Raymond Woodcock, who is Daniel Day-Lewis's character. They're basically at battle over who gets the most influence on him, who is right about him. And it turns out, well, both of them kind of have it right and kind of have it wrong in different ways, which is very fascinating to me. I loved the turns this movie took when it came to those three. Those characters worked really well together. All the actors did a good job. And I really liked, just the small scale of the film. It didn't need to be this massive thing. Paul Thomas Anderson's really good at telling these kind of small stories, but keeping them very interesting, right? This movie never dries out or gets boring. It keeps taking turns, like you mentioned in your little blib, that surprised you. You didn't see it coming. And yeah, you could see this. You could read this movie different ways. I read it as a very dysfunctional love story, right, between people, and it's fascinating how these people are managed to develop a relationship with each other and become a more stable couple. But at the same time, that's what makes these kind of movies interesting, is watching weird, interesting people try and get along. And this movie does it well. Yeah, it's definitely a character-driven film, but it's well shot, it's well made. Paul Thomas Anderson's definitely one of the most talented directors working today, and he proves it with Phantom Thread. I really enjoyed this.
All right. Yeah, I liked it too. I already talked about it, but I do agree. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, go ahead.
My number 15 is the other movie we saw today, I, Tonya.
Jeff was my first date ever. And my mom came.
You need to see a wholesome American family.
I don't have a wholesome American family.
Nothing's ever your fault. I was embarrassed for you.
My entire life, I've been told I wouldn't amount to anything. And you know what? Maybe I would.
This movie, I didn't know anything about the actual person, Tonya Harding, thank you. Can't remember her last name.
Obviously, the movie.
Obviously, I don't know that much. I've seen it once, but this was a fascinating film about this woman who, she was a very talented figure skater, but because of her background and the way people perceived her, she wasn't really allowed to go as far as she probably did deserve to go in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And how other stuff happened around her because of people she knew who weren't as intelligent. I'll just say, for those who don't know about the real story, she wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympics anymore.
In skating.
And it's so sad. It's it's a very tragic film, but it's also a very funny film. Mm-hmm. I was surprised by. It reminded me a lot of The Big Short in how it was edited and how characters would just turn to the camera and go, actually, this happened. They did that, just like they did in The Big Short. And just the kind of witty, kind of sly comedy and the way it was written. It's like, we're going to talk about these very serious subjects, but we're going to make you be awkwardly laughing while we talk about, like, spousal abuse and stuff like that. And yeah, obviously there are more serious points in the film, but I think this was an excellent combination of drama and comedy. And I just gotta say, Allison Janney and Margot Robbie in this film, both of them were terrific, especially Allison Janney. If she doesn't get nominated for a freaking Oscar, then
I think there would be a very strange universe.
I think a lot of people would be like, what the hell? Because she is absolutely terrific. This might be, hard pressed to think of a better performance. Maybe I'm forgetting one. But
she's in my favorite movie, so I'm not going to say anything.
All right, fair enough. She is terrific here, though. Absolutely.
She's great in Juno, actually. Funny enough.
Okay, I have not seen Juno, actually.
And American Beauty. She's really good in that, too.
That's right. I didn't forget about one. That's right.
And she's also in The West Wing, but I'll talk about that.
Anyway. And Margot Robbie, this has to be my favorite performance from her. This is an absolutely impeccably amazing film. I have a feeling once I rewatch this, I'll probably rate it even higher. It was very tough not to put this higher, but there's just these other films, but this is so close to making my top 10, honestly. I absolutely adored this
Funny thing is, Margot Robbie did appear in The Big Short, so...
That's right, she has a cameo in The Big Short.
As herself.
Yes.
Yeah, agree with you, and I'll get to I, Tonya for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
So my next up, number 14, Call Me by Your Name.
Oh, to see without my eyes. The first time that you give.
Is there anything you don't know?
Boundless by the time I cry.
You only knew how little I know about the things that matter.
Build your walls around.
What things that matter?
White noise, what an awful sound.
You know what things.
Tumbling by road.
You saying what I think you're saying?
Feel my feet above the ground.
Shouldn't have said anything.
Just pretend you never did.
Nature has cunning ways of finding our weakest spot. Blessed be the mystery of love.
Call me by your name and I'll call you by mine.
So this is another one of those like critically lauded films. It's an Italian film. This movie, wow, yeah. So let's talk about it. So the first third to half of the movie, it was kind of slow. I'm like, what is this movie trying to do? I was really kind of confused by it. It wasn't following any beats of movies that I'm used to, which sometimes will throw me off. You know, even though I do appreciate movies that try to be different, I want it to still, you know, feel like a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when this movie gets to about the halfway mark, I start to piece it together. I'm like, oh, I know what they're doing. They do a very subtle way of introducing these characters, developing them, and then later on you can examine situations that happened earlier in the movie and make sense of them. Because this movie doesn't just explain everything to you up front. It slowly gives you the exposition you need and the understanding you need of these people and these characters and how they communicate and work with each other. That makes you see the beginning in a whole new lens. So it's kind of like you're developing a relationship with these characters in a natural way. They're not just expositioned to you, you know, through scenes, which is nice. This is one of those experiential films that kind of just shows you these people's lives. I like that kind of hands-off approach in film. There's a few films on my list here that are very sort of hands-off. They're sort of like, we're going to just show you these people in these lives. Very little editing, you know, just showing you various scenes. I can't talk about this film without talking about the actors. Let's talk about Timothée Chalamet. What a very extremely talented kid. This kid, he has a bright future. I'll just say that much. He's fantastic in this film. He is, you know, just engrossing, and he carries the movie. You know, a lot of the movie is on his shoulders, and that's what's so important, especially in just his facial reactions. There's a lot of dialogue, less scenes in this film, and it's just carried completely on his facial expressions. That's subtlety I can appreciate in film. If anyone doesn't know what this movie is about, it's basically a love story between a 17-year-old boy and a much older man who comes to Italy under the pretense of studying with the boy's father, who is a professor of some sort of history, antiquities type thing. Kind of like Indiana Jones, I guess. But
he's the Italian Indiana Jones.
Italian Indiana Jones. Yeah, but yeah, I think that kind of is an oversimplification of the movie. I really think you need to see it to experience it and to feel what these characters feel. It's not your typical love story, so get that out of the way right away. But what it is, it's extremely believable. Armie Hammer pulls off probably the best performance of his career. So maybe he can turn his career around too. Let's hope, you know, because he really needs that help. Also, Michael Stuhlbarg is in this film, and I know him most as the professor from Hugo. But the guy's actually really talented. He actually has shown me recently that he's really good. He was also in The Shape of Water, and I will mention he was great in that, even though that's not going to be on my list. He did a good job there, and he was recently in Steve Jobs. I liked him in that too. But he's a talented guy. And he delivers a monologue scene with Timothée Chalamet towards the end of the movie that is his Oscar scene. But, you know, even though it's such an Oscar bait scene, I really appreciate that scene. There's a lot of heart there. There's a lot of bucking the trend of these type of movies, right? The type of scene you would expect. It's not the type of scene you'd expect, right? And also, I really want to congratulate the ending of this movie. Even though it ends in a lot of the type of way you expect sort of these gay romance movies to end, it does it in a very subtle way, and it does differentiate itself from the crowd, which I really liked. It makes it feel tragic and poignant, and yet, you know, slightly hopeful too. And this movie just made me feel a lot of feelings. And sometimes I just have to give movies a lot of credit that make me feel that way. It's also beautiful, just the Italian countryside, beautiful place to shoot a movie, right? And it's all shot on location. So I really like this film.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing for me. I think I just didn't fully get what the movie was trying to do soon enough. I didn't really get into this movie as much. This is a technically beautifully made, and the acting is great. I agree with everything you said. It just personally wasn't for me. I think when it comes to dramas like this, I wanted a bit more something. Not the generic opposition. I didn't need that, but like something, something they had to do. It just felt like, best way I could say, it's too easy of a drama. Like, this kid is moping, he's sad, and then turns out this guy likes him, so he's happy, and then he's sad again at the end. And I know there's more to it. I don't want to put this down. It's just that's what it felt like watching the movie a little bit. I just did not get fully into the story. And that's my biggest complaint about this film, and that's why it's not on my list.
Doesn't sound like romance films are for you then, because that's a lot of romance films are like, so...
Well, I mean, La La Land does a lot more, but maybe we can talk about romance films sometime.
I disagree. This is definitely I'll say this. This is definitely a better romance than La La Land. I don't want people getting that in their minds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is a much better handled romance than La La Land.
I think La La Land's a terrific film, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a terrific film. The romance is better in Call Me By Your Name. So
okay, all right.
Very clear there.
All right. Well, my number 14 is definitely not a romance film. It is a horror movie, a French horror movie called Raw. It is completely subtitled, so if you are afraid of reading, get the heck over it and watch this movie, because this is a terrific horror film. It is about a girl who is a vegan, and she goes to this veterinarian college, there we go, where as part of the hazing ritual, I guess, she is supposed to eat, I believe it's rabbit meat. And she doesn't want to, but she is forced to. And she suddenly starts to get a hungering for meat. And I won't say why, but because it's actually an interesting reveal later on why. But she starts to go after human flesh. And it's an interesting coming-of-age cannibal movie that surprisingly really works. You feel bad for this character because she doesn't know why she has this craving. It almost plays like sort of like a... Well, coming of age in the sense of like puberty, or like realizing you have some sickness in you, this demon in you that you don't want, but it's there, and you can read into that whatever you want, and it's very fascinating the way it is handled. And you feel for her, even though she's obviously doing very horrible stuff because she just can't help herself.
Yeah.
This is not Cannibal Holocaust. Now, I did hear some people, when this was shown at film festivals, did actually pass out. There's not really any... I mean, to be fair, I watch a lot of these gross horror films, so maybe for me it's not that. If you're really sensitive, I would say stay away.
It's not Cannibal Holocaust, but...
No, that... Even I love Cannibal Holocaust, but yeah, that did almost make me want to puke a little bit after watching it. This is not that. There's not really anything that level gross, but there is some gross.
So you're saying this is more dramatic, though?
This is more dramatic, for sure.
It's not a comedy.
This is not a comedy. It's much more dramatic, straight up, just... kind of a tragedy about this poor girl. I actually highly recommend it. It's a fascinating movie. It's very well directed and well acted. And the effects, as far as I could tell, I didn't really look this up, but they're all practical. So it's really cringy and creepy looking. So yeah, I highly recommend Raw.
It's like Leo actually eating the liver in The Revenant.
Yes, exactly.
Liver. Wonder if she actually chowed down on raw meat.
She chowed down on her own finger, probably, in real life. Actually, it wasn't her finger, it was someone else's finger. But maybe she did. Maybe she chowed down on a real finger. She eats a finger in the movie, and I'm making a joke that she eats a real human finger, but I doubt it.
Oh,
anyway,
I didn't get the joke.
You brought it up. Sorry. But anyway, let's go on to your number.
Wondering if she actually ate real meat, because that'd be kind of that dedication that Leo.
That
had.
would be cool.
She's going for her Oscar, so she purposely ate real meat. She's like, that's how you win an Oscar these days.
I love it. Yeah, maybe.
All right, my number 13 is Wheelman's.
I know you got a wife and daughter.
I need you to leave the house.
Dad, what's going on?
I got a daughter. That's what scares me.
So yes, you talked about this already, so now it's my turn. I love these kind of movies. These action thrillers are definitely up my alley. So yeah, you talked about the filmmaking is fantastic. The camera stays in the car, and I love that. Like you said, it kind of feels like you're riding along with Frank Grillo. Let's talk about Frank Grillo a bit. I love Frank Grillo. I think he's an underappreciated actor. I really liked him, even in his small roles, like in Captain America, The Winter Soldier. I really liked him in that. And then, of course, they brought him back for smaller roles.
Even smaller role, because it's one sequence.
Yeah, but he's good. And I really like him in the Purge movies. Purge Anarchy and Purge Election Year. He does a good job in those movies. It actually is one of the reasons I really like those movies, is because of Frank Grillo's presence. But this movie is his best performance. He gives this subtle performance as a father who makes money as, like you said, a getaway driver. That's what he does until one of his jobs goes wrong, and then he's on the run, and he has to figure out who is this person calling him, and what is the whole mystery behind that. And the twist this movie takes keeps you on the edge the whole time. The movie is extremely well made. It's got some great acting from all the characters, not just from Frank Grillo. And yeah, I really liked this movie. I really did. This is the movie that's for me. If you like these thrillers, if you like these kind of subdued movies, with some action still in them, I definitely recommend this one. I tell people this is basically Drive meets Locke. So if you like those two movies, imagine those mixed together.
I haven't seen Locke, but I like Drive a lot. So
yeah, it's more action packed than those two. So it has that element as well. Yeah, but definitely a very, very well made movie, and it has this gimmick that works, which is why I like movies that find a way to be unique and yet make it really work, so that's what this movie did. I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too. My number 13 is another horror film called
What a surprise.
Wow, what a surprise. I like horror. What is this, Mattis? I bet you didn't know that.
No, I had no idea.
My number 13 is The Black Coat's Daughter.
Black coat's daughter, what was in the holy water? Gone to bed on unclean bed, the angels they forgot
It is a horror film, stars Emma Roberts and other talent that haven't really gone on and done much else, so no one would really know their names. But this is a surprisingly underseen horror film. It is directed by a man, Oz Perkins. This is his first film. He also wrote the movie. It is done in a very 70s horror style. It is about a Catholic private school where it's winter break and most people have gone home except for two girls are left because their parents haven't come to pick them up, and they are supposed to stay with the nuns until their parents arrive. And weird stuff starts happening. There may be Satan involved, or devil worship stuff, and I won't say much more, but it has a feeling of unsettling tension for the movie, and it is 100% built on atmosphere, and it is great. It is an A24 horror film, and A24, I just want to say, that is a film company that I absolutely have learned to love the last few years. They have brought some of my just best movies of the past couple years, including The Witch, which I absolutely love. This is not as good as The Witch, I want to say, but this is still a very terrific, unsettling film, and the twist that happens hits you hard when you realize what's going on. there's something revealed basically, without spoiling it, that is just like, oh my god, I can't believe that's what I was watching this whole time, and it is
I like
great.
twists. That's interesting.
Yeah, just without saying anything else. Emma Roberts, as I said, is in the movie, and she is terrific in this movie. This might be my favorite performance from her. She's a terrific actress, honestly. She doesn't get a lot of roles where she can really show that, unfortunately, but when she does...
Not as big as her aunt yet.
No, she's not Julia Roberts yet, but
she's bigger than her dad, Eric.
Well, that's not hard. That's true.
Hey, I like Maroni.
All right, fair enough.
In The Dark Knight.
You're right.
That's like the only role I remember.
Fair enough. But no, it's unsettling. I would say similarities in tone to Rosemary's Baby, maybe, or The Omen, and some other lesser-known horror movies at that time. No, not in plot. Not in plot.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with the plot at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Just tone, just atmosphere.
No, the twist thing intrigues me. I'll have to.
The cinematography is beautiful, by the way, in this movie too.
Okay, good to know.
But yeah, really great movie.
I have to check some of these out.
And it takes place in winter, which is just a creepy setting for horror, I'm starting to realize. Like The Thing, The Witch does this. It's like an eerie setting in the winter. But anyway.
Fair enough, yeah.
Moving on to your number 12.
Yeah, so my number 12 is The Beguiled.
Miss Martha! Miss Martha!
Is he dead? No. Get him inside. Quick!
I need rags. I need chloroform. Go to the smokehouse. Get the saw. Now. Bring me the anatomy book.
Can I get you anything?
Give me the key.
You know I'd get in trouble for that.
Oh, what have you done to me? You vengeful bitches!
The Sofia Coppola remake to the 1971 Clint Eastwood classic, where it's basically the essential plot is a Confederate house, basically in the Confederacy, somewhere in the Confederacy. I don't remember if they actually is set. It's filled with a bunch of schoolgirls and some women who are taking care of them while the men are off to war, right? So that's kind of the general premise. They happen upon a Union soldier in the remake played by Colin Farrell, who is wounded, and take him in and give him shelter. There's a lot of arguments about that, whether or not they should be harboring an enemy or whether or not they should turn him in. Should they give him away to the Confederate soldiers? So all that's addressed. But that's not what this movie is about. This movie is actually more interesting than that. It is a subtle, kind of erotic thriller where basically these women have been without men in their lives for a while, and a man shows up, like Colin Farrell, who's a dashing young lad, Union soldier, and they take to him, and it becomes sort of a competition, to see who can spend the most time with Colin Farrell, who can, please him the most. And the movie starts to take some twists and turns that make the movie actually more and more creepy as time goes on. Things happen in this movie that are surprising, that are interesting, that keep you on edge, and you don't know where this movie's going to go. And that's what I love. I love that this movie is not predictable. This movie takes some turns that I didn't see coming. I never saw the original, so I'll make that clear. I didn't see the original watching this movie. I do want to see it because I like Clint Eastwood. But this movie, first of all, let's talk about the acting. First, Nicole Kidman. She's always great. She's great here. Kirsten Dunst gives her one of her best performances in years, actually, and I really liked her in this movie. And also Elle Fanning's in this, who continues her streak as excellent performances too. So all of them do a really good job.
I did like her in 20th Century Women last year.
I did too, absolutely. And Colin Farrell, who's also always good, does a great job. And I don't want to reveal too much, but there's things that happen. There's tension between these characters. They're all trapped in this house, and it's a very good thriller. Beautifully shot, by the way. The cinematography is gorgeous in this movie. Production design's top notch. The movie feels authentic. It feels like in its time period. It doesn't feel cheap, and I really like all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I like these kind of thrillers, so it's definitely up my alley. But this movie surprised me in that I liked it as much as I did. I didn't expect it to be so high, but honestly, it deserves it. It was a very interesting, very thrilling film.
It sounds interesting. I might have to check it out at some point.
It's good, yeah.
All right, my number 12 is another comic book movie, Wonder Woman.
I used to want to save the world. This beautiful place. But the closer you get, the more you see the great darkness within. I learned this the hard way a long, long time ago.
I was so surprised after the duds of the previous 3 DC movies, and I was so happy watching Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a terrific callback to early superhero movies. It is very similar to Superman the movie, actually, in the way Wonder Woman is presented and introduced. It is actually slow build like that movie is. They even do a direct reference to Superman in the alleyway scene. If you've seen Superman the movie, they have a very similar alleyway scene. And I absolutely love that they did that. I thought that was a wonderful homage. Patty Jenkins talked a lot about how Superman was a huge influence. That original film was a huge influence when making this film. And I could see why, and I could definitely see it in the movie. But that doesn't take away from the movie itself. Gal Gadot, like you said, I was blown away. Like, you don't really get a lot from her in Batman v Superman, but hey, that's not her fault. That's the script. Thankfully, she is terrific, and preview of my review of the other one, she is one of the best parts of Justice League. In fact, she's one of the only good parts of Justice League. But, oh my gosh, the action in this movie is great, but more importantly, the story. I find her so compelling. Like this, she just wants to do the right thing and help all these guys, but then there's like scenes where they're like, we don't have time to help those people. We got to help these people. It's more important.
Yeah.
And kind of explain why that is. And like you said, the No Man's Land scene is terrific. It really just shows you, yes, this is Wonder Woman. And thank God this movie didn't suck. Like, not only is this the only good DC Universe movies, but it's like we finally have a good female superhero character movie.
And DC beat Marvel on that one.
Hey, they did. I will say I like Marvel more when it comes to their universes. But hey, come on, Marvel. Come on, Marvel.
Now they're finally getting
they're
that
doing
Black
Captain
Widow
Marvel
movie now.
with Brie Larson and Black Widow. So
finally getting moving.
Yeah, this will happen. Probably because Wonder Woman did so well, but thank God it did. And yeah, Patty Jenkins, please don't take so long for your next movie because I really want to see
doing Wonder Woman too. So
well, yeah, there's that. So I'm excited for that. But then whatever else, I will gladly see after this, and I do want to see Monster.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some good women directors this year, so
we did.
I'm really happy with that. Moving on, my number 11 is Darkest Hour.
We have before us many, many long months of struggle and suffering. Even though many old and famous states have fallen into the grip of the Nazi rule, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender! For without victory, there can be no survival.
You already mentioned this film. Yeah, I love Darkest Hour. First of all, I'm a historical geek. I love history. I love historical dramas. This movie is right up my alley. Like you said, Sean, Gary Oldman is a transformative presence as Winston Churchill in this film. He is embodiment. He's an embodiment of that character. He is fantastic. He portrays the subtleties of Churchill really well. If you read anything about Churchill, he nailed that down. he is a very, Churchill's a very interesting historical figure. He's very strong, but he did not have a lot of allies to begin with. You'd be surprised. He was kind of prime minister by a fluke, just because he happened to be the only person standing. A lot of people didn't assume he'd last very long. Well, it ended up he led the British through World War II, and we get to see the beginning of that in this film, which is fascinating. It's probably the most fascinating part because it's when the country wasn't really behind him. The king was even doubting his abilities to lead. And it's really fascinating to watch this with Dunkirk, which will be something I'm talking about soon, because you get both sides of the story. You get the war, and you get the actual battle, and then you also get the behind the scenes and the struggles that these people had to go through in just making these kind of decisions. And seeing Churchill kind of wrestle with these kind of things is fascinating to watch on screen. I think all of the cast members did a great job. I really liked the cinematography, and the music and everything was top notch, which you'd expect from these type of historical dramas. Joe Wright, like you said, definitely redeemed himself, but he kind of showed like the old Joe Wright. I know. It's funny, the guy must like Dunkirk because he did a movie called Atonement, which is basically like the romance version of Dunkirk.
Oh.
So
okay.
Yeah.
I've not
a
seen
lot of
this
Dunkirk
one, so...
movies, I guess now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. That one has a very impressive oneer that people talk about all the time. It's like a 2-minute, 30-second
Oh,
oneer.
yeah, I forgot to talk about that. But
Yeah,
yes.
that is another Joe Wright film. There's nothing like that visually impressive in this film, but it's still really well made. And there are some scenes that are really just engrossing. I love the scene when Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill is speaking to FDR. And the conversation is kind of a joke on the American view of World War II, and sort of a criticism of how we were handling the whole thing. But I just love how Gary Oldman plays. You can see the frustration on his face, and yet he's trying to speak respectfully to the president. So he's like wrestling these two, and it's only a really good actor can do that sort of difference between their voice and their physical performance.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Gary Oldman's like a chameleon. I've said this over and over. He can transform into anything, and he's definitely deserving of an Oscar nom.
Yeah, this is... And I say this as both a Batman and a Harry Potter fan. This is his best performance.
Yeah. I mean, I love him in his Air Force One, I have to say. But
well, yeah, it's in Air Force One.
Yes. All right, Sean, number 11.
This one pained me because I had one film that I had to put on my top 10, and that's going to be my number 10. So my number 11, unfortunately, is Dunkirk.
The call went out. We have to go to Dunkirk. Ready on the stern line.
What are you doing? You know where we're going.
Into war, George.
I'll be useful, sir.
One of ours. He's on me.
I'm on him.
The ship's about to leave.
Down you go.
They need to send more ships. Every hour the enemy pushes closer. They've activated the civilian boats. Civilians? We need destroyers. Where are we going?
Dunkirk.
Where's the bloody Air Force?
I love Dunkirk. Dunkirk was a terrific war movie. I knew nothing about this part of World War II history because, I guess I'm your stereotypical American. I know about the American stuff. I feel bad. I feel stupid saying that, but it's true. This year I'm going to change it though after watching this and Darkest Hour, because this movie was terrific. Christopher Nolan yet again bringing terrific movie. This is one of his best in years, honestly. I would say it's better than Interstellar. Well, maybe it's as good as Dark Knight Rises. I really like Dark Knight Rises. But anyway, I love the way this film is shot. The cinematography is beautiful. It is just intense and thrilling all the way through, because you just expect a bullet to fly past. Like, there will be these sound effects, but bullets like far off in the distance, and it'll just kind of be unsettling, or all of a sudden an explosion will go off and you'll see soldiers react, and it'll just happen off screen, and it's just like these wonderful little moments that just put you on edge while you watch the movie, and it never gets boring. It's terrifically edited. The acting, Mark Rylance, again, a terrific performance in this film. Hans Zimmer with this wonderful score with this just droning sound. That almost is like a ticking time bomb as you watch this movie, and you're just waiting for the
clock motifs. For
yes,
sure.
that's what I was trying to refer to. But yes, thank you. Just these sounds that just put you on edge, and you're just waiting for a German plane to come and just start shooting at these guys as these guys are all lined up on the beach. And that's the opening scene of the movie that was shown in IMAX before. I forget what movie. I think it was Rogue One. Yeah, it was Rogue One. That's right. And just terrifically intense with great acting. And God, I loved everything about this movie. It's just there's one thing I just had to put on my number 10, and I'll get to that soon. But I highly recommend Dunkirk. Yeah. It's a terrific war movie.
All right, we're going on 2 hours now, so we'll try and pick this up for our top 10. We're just going to go through this, but here are the big ones, the top 10. So what made it? Starting my number 10 is Life.
As we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. This nation will continue to be a pioneer in the new frontier of space.
I had to put this on. I am a fan of Alien. I'm a fan of sci-fi horror. I really think this is a genre that I love, and I'm glad when they explore it. Is it original? No. It takes a lot of inspiration from Alien. A lot of people are right on that. Does it change enough, and does it do enough different to make it interesting? Yes, it does. Not only does it set it in a more modern day type time, so it's a lot less science fiction and more about what if a alien life form actually showed up, and what if it wasn't so friendly? This is more of the questions you can ask in this film, because it's set on the International Space Station. Like you mentioned, Sean, the cast is fantastic. I want to just go through. Jake Gyllenhaal does a great job. Rebecca Ferguson's great. She's done a great job this year. She's definitely cementing herself as a good A-list possibility. We'll see where her career goes next year, but she's great. Ryan Reynolds is good. And Hiroyuki Sanada, who's a really fantastic Japanese actor, is also in it. There's also several other actors that I don't want to try and pronounce their name because I will fail, but they all do a good job. Now I need to talk a little bit about Kelvin. Kelvin is the name they give to the creature that shows up, and obviously if anyone's seen the trailer, they know that this little Martian is not what they think. It is not a peaceful life form. They come in peace. It does not. The movie's title actually is interesting because they talk about Kelvin from a biological standpoint. Like, this thing is just trying to survive, and this thing is trying to do what it does best. And there were some fan theories I came up with, like, it's kind of silly to say fan theory, but Mars is a planet devoid of life, so maybe this is an answer to maybe why Mars became devoid of life, and that's kind of a fascinating question, and maybe that even hypes up the danger a little bit more of we need to keep Kelvin off of Earth, because what could Kelvin do to Earth?
Right.
And that stuff is fascinating. Let's just talk a little bit about how scary he is, though. Even when he's just that little thing with arms, like before he becomes bigger, he's still creepy. This little thing just like flopping around without eyes. It's just kind of like this smart little squid.
Yeah.
But then when he turns into like this evil looking octopus, that is terrifying to me. I know a lot of people thought he was less scary then. I didn't think so. I thought he was creepy.
No way. It's really scary.
This movie does some great stuff with like zero-G. It simulates the zero-G really well. I think the space station is a really cool setting for a horror film. It's so claustrophobic. It's tight. I listened to what Daniel Espinosa, the director, talked about the opening scene. He's like, I wanted to do Gravity, but I wanted to do the opposite effect. The opening shot of Gravity is a wide, massive open space. He's like, I wanted to do that, but I wanted to establish the claustrophobia of the station. So he has this winding shots, this big oneer at the beginning, just like Gravity, but it's showing the winding tunnels and catacombs of the space station and how this place is really isolated and really small and kind of a creepy place to think about a horror movie happening. Also, the things that happen, they're intense. The movie takes twists and turns you don't expect. I like that. Again, all the actors do a great job. And I like these kind of films. It just really comes down to that. You know, I think this movie is criminally underrated. I agree with you, Sean. I think more people should have seen this movie. The effects were fantastic. I do need to mention that. For the low budget that the movie had, I think it was like $35 million budget. It did a fantastic job with the effects. They look real. They look great, which is important in these movies. It's kind of like a B movie with an A-list movie budget, you know. But, yeah, I thought it was a fantastically entertaining film.
Yeah,
I should leave it at that.
I agree. It is absolutely unsettling, and just you talk about it, I want to like watch that after this. Like,
yeah, it's my favorite horror movie of the year. I will say that. So
all right, so there will be no more horror movie on Shane's list. There's at least 2 on mine. So
you're the king of horror this year.
I am. Jeez, I watched pretty much all of
them. All right, you're number 10. Sorry if I'm being too long.
Yeah, my number 10 is the biopic The Disaster Artist.
Nobody respect my vision. You are a villain. I do this whole movie for you, Greg. You are tearing me apart, Lisa.
Cut?
Why you cut, Sandy? This is great. This is real acting.
If you're gonna writhe around with the dress, maybe do it before you shoot yourself in the head and blow your brains out.
I disagree.
You really gonna make this thing?
We are going to die together.
I loved this movie, honestly. This movie, I cannot stop thinking about this movie. It is both hilarious, dramatic, it is inspiring in a weird way, because the way honest to God, going into this movie, I was looking forward to it, but I was also a little trepidatious, because I was like, okay, James Franco, Seth Rogen, is this going to be like a, let's make fun of this guy, Tommy Wiseau, look at what an idiot he is. No, this is a complete love letter to that guy. And like, yeah, and like, yep, these are all his faults, but hey, he also did it. He went for his dream and he achieved it. Maybe not in the way he wanted to, but he darn achieved it. And he's famous now in his own weird way.
Yeah.
And it's great. And it's completely done with respect, which I really appreciate. And like you said, James Franco as Tommy Wiseau is terrific. It is weird to say that he does a great performance of playing a guy who does a terrible performance in this movie. That is terrible, but it's true. And it's hilarious because James Franco is directing himself, directing others as Tommy Wiseau. And when he was on set, he would never not do the Tommy Wiseau voice. And so they weren't always sure, like, wait, is he saying cut, like, as James Franco, the director? Or is he saying cut as Tommy Wiseau in this scene? Which is hilarious. And there was one day he didn't have to come in, so he came in as himself. And the next day he came in as Tommy Wiseau and goes, oh, hey, did you guys miss me yesterday? It was just like, it's really funny stuff like that. And also his brother Dave, I should mention, Dave Franco as Greg Sestero. It's terrific. The banter between the two is great. Makes me want to read the book and learn more about this crazy movie. And yes, I agree. See The Room. This movie's a lot like Ed Wood, which you haven't seen.
Not yet.
You really should.
I will.
I absolutely love Ed Wood. That's also a very similar movie. It's directed by Tim Burton, stars Johnny Depp. And I love biopics. I've really noticed that I like this genre a lot, and this is really, really good one. I absolutely love that. I want to see it again. Highly recommend it. Check out The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, my number 9 is Lady Bird.
I hate California. I want to go to the East Coast.
I want to go where culture is, like
How
New
in the
York,
world did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire, where writers live in the
Get
woods.
into those schools anyway.
Mom,
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
Lady Bird, is that your given name?
Yeah.
Why is it in quotes?
I gave it to myself. It's given to me by me.
Lady Bird always says that she lives on the wrong side of the tracks, but I always thought that was like a metaphor. But there are actual train tracks.
So this is one of those great original movies this year. Yeah, I really liked this movie. Greta Gerwig showed that she is as fantastic a writer and director as she is an actress. She wrote the character of Lady Bird, I thought, fantastically. She's a free spirit. She's motivated. She's independent. You know, I love those kind of qualities in a character. It made her interesting to watch. You really root for her in the movie, you know, even though she makes mistakes and even though she does things that are obviously kind of jerky. You understand where she's coming from, and I like that. I really like her relationship with Laurie Metcalf, her mother. who gives a tremendously great performance in this film. I think they're both Oscar worthy, actually. I really liked their realistic relationship, right? You know, they fight and then instantly they'll go into like a mom-daughter dialogue, which is like, that's so real, you know?
I know.
That's how mothers and daughters really behave. And I thought that was fantastic. And the movie just basically is a year in the life of Lady Bird. You know, it starts out with her going to a new school and it ends with her in college. And you get to kind of explore her life. And her life is interesting. And what happens in it all feel realistic. The movie manages to be really funny. It's really heartfelt. You really care about these people by the end. You know, especially, I was getting a little choked up when Laurie Metcalf and her fantastic acting at the airport. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, what a realistic scene. I loved that. Also, Tracy Letts is in this film. He does a great job, too, as Lady Bird's father. Yeah, I thought that this movie is one of those, like, again, those, like, realistic... experience this person's life type movies, and I like those. They're sort of laid back, but they also are well written enough to command your attention. Sean mentioned this. I know you get, as you're a Catholic, right? So you get a little like uneasy when Catholics are portrayed on screen. I thought this movie, because I grew up Catholic and I went to Catholic school, I thought this movie portrayed that really well. Like, yeah, there's some silly things about Catholic school and stuff.
It was respectful, I
Yeah.
would say, and I appreciated that. It didn't fall into tropes that I was kind of worried might happen because, well, yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
liked...
a priest character, let's just say that. I was
like-
worried there would be a trope there.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I liked the nun character, actually. I thought she was pretty funny, and I liked her conversations with Lady Bird are pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, the college advisor scene was pretty hilarious. Like, you're not getting into Harvard. just laughing at her. Like, yeah, right. No. And also, Timothée Chalamet is in this movie, too, and he does a great job here. So, yeah, I really liked Lady Bird. I thought it was fantastically written. It's just one of those movies that just thrives on the script. It does a great job.
I mean, there's only 10 or 9 left. It's obviously in my top 9. I will talk about it later.
All right, keep going.
But for now, I will talk about Wonder.
My name is Augie Pullman. Next week, I start 5th grade. And since I've never been to real school before, I'm pretty much totally petrified.
I'll see you later.
You don't want to walk up with your parents because it's not cool.
But you're cool.
I know I am, but technically most dads aren't. Neither are these helmets.
Dear God, please make them be nice to him.
I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid. I've had 27 surgeries. They've helped me to breathe, to see, to hear without a hearing aid, but none of them have made me look ordinary.
You are not ugly, Augie.
You just have to say that because you're my mom.
Because I'm your mom, it counts the most. Because I know you the most.
With Jacob Tremblay as the lead role, he plays a boy who is born with a lot of physical deformities, unfortunately, and he had a lot of surgery to make him the best he could be, but he still looks different from other people. And it's about his first year going to public school. He's a 5th grader, and all the trepidations you could possibly imagine with being a sore thumb in, just stand out amongst everyone, and the cruelty of kids, but also the niceness of some kids, and the way it portrays that is really great. First of all, this is probably one of the most tear-jerking movies ever. I actually cried at the end of this movie. I watched it with my mom, and I didn't want to cry in front of my mom, so I was holding it in, walked to the bathroom, just like, oh my gosh, that movie. Because this movie is the sweetest freaking movie. And yeah, I've heard some people say, oh, it's kind of tries to pull at your heartstring and manipulate it and stuff. And I'm like, not really, though. First of all film in some way is kind of manipulative. It tries to get a reaction out of you when you watch it.
It's only when you notice that it's manipulating you.
I didn't feel like it was manipulating me because the characters all felt real. They felt like real people. I loved that we get to see not only Jacob Tremblay's character, Augie, his point of view, we get to see his sister's point of view, his sister's friend's point of view, his best friend's point of view from school. We get to see all these different points of view and what they're going through. we even, in a weird way, get to see this bully character who seems like he's just going to be the stereotypical bully. We get to see why he's a bully, though. And you even feel bad for him in that moment because you're like, oh, yeah, it's cyclical. This is why you're such a jerk. You're whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it, but it works. And even the ending, which, yes, has been done to death. It's the stereotypical ending in these kind of movies. It feels earned, and I didn't mind it. And I was like, okay, yes, this is one of the few times where this feels right and correct to do it like this.
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying movie. Also, just want to say the makeup effects in this movie is outstanding, and honestly deserves a nomination because Jacob Tremblay is like unrecognizable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great movie for families, honestly. It's very, it's PG.
What's the definition of what a family movie should be? Because kids can watch it, but adults can get a lot out of it.
I would say it's a movie you should bring your kids to, because it's like, hey, kids, learn how to treat people with respect and not be
that
horrible.
Are different than you. Yeah. Which is great. It's a great message.
It's a very important film, and it's well done.
Yeah, I'll be talking about that. But,
Absolutely.
First,
let's hear next.
I got to talk about Molly's Game.
Let's play.
You spent 8 years in Hollywood and 2 years in New York running the world's most exclusive and decadent man cave.
Have you seen the other names in your indictment? Come on, Marty, just how deep into the Russian mob were you?
Your exposure's crazy.
You got 2.8 million on the street right now.
You're gonna get blown up.
You managed to build a multi-million-dollar business using not much more than your wits.
I'm about to be charged in federal court.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Why are you in this alone? Where are the people you're protecting by not telling the whole story?
I'll tell them everything they want to know about me. About me. That's it.
All right.
So you already said this, but I am an Aaron Sorkin fan. I'm unabashed in my Aaron Sorkin fandom, okay? I've watched all of The West Wing. I prefer the Aaron Sorkin seasons, obviously. I love All the President's Men. I love Steve Jobs. I love The Social Network. I think he's one of the best screenwriters working today, if not the best.
Did you say All the President's Men?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say A Few Good Men?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to correct you before you got to the editor.
It is really late in the morning. So, like you mentioned.
Yes.
A Few Good Men. Similar titles. Jesus. I also have seen both recently. Anyway, yeah, I think he's one of the best, if not the best screenwriters working today, especially when it comes to his dialogue. Everyone talks about Sorkin dialogue that... it's almost unrealistic how witty and, his characters are. And you know what? I don't care. It's a lot of fun to watch and listen to. Seeing these back and forth clips between these characters, like Molly arguing with the character X or whatever they call him, player X. Yeah. It's fascinating seeing Molly Bloom's relationship with her lawyer, Idris Elba. That's a great relationship on screen. It's so weird and, almost confrontational, but almost like they want to help each other too. Especially Idris Elba wanting to help Molly. I really liked it. First of all, let's talk about Jessica Chastain. Her career-defining performance so far. She does a fantastic job here. She proves that she's still an A-lister. Good for her. She deserves that status. Absolutely. Ever since I watched Zero Dark 30, I'm like, she's great. And she still is, honestly. I do want to mention Idris Elba, though, because, Idris Elba, he's been in a lot of great movies recently, but I really liked his performance. Specifically, there's one scene in this movie where he just sells it, and I'm like, wow. And you know what scene I'm talking about.
Yes, I do know what scene you're talking about. It's terrific.
Yeah, and he's just so great because he just owns this room, and it's just engrossing to watch. So I almost want to give him a nomination. I think he deserves one just for that scene because he's great. Yeah, I think the story is just fascinating. It's almost something you can't really believe until you really do the research. Like, yeah, this really happened, and it's something that probably nobody really knows about unless they've read the book. So it's something I definitely recommend to people, especially if you don't know anything about it. Go watch this movie. It does take some artistic liberty. If you don't know Sorkin, he's not a literalist. He doesn't just adapt reality. He plays around with things. He changes things around to make it more dramatic, to make it more interesting. That's why I always say, watch his movies like you're watching a play. Like you're watching an adaptation of reality. It's not a true life.
Yeah.
Same thing I said with Steve Jobs. You got to watch this like it's a play.
Also heard that about The Social Network. I know a lot of people
absolutely
say
it's not a realistic
absolutely
movie.
Not like the real events.
Yeah, because like Mark Zuckerberg hates the movie, and of course, but
could they make him seem horrible?
Yeah, but you have to watch it like a play, and it's just fascinating. Like nobody can argue that is fascinating. it's engrossing to watch his movies, and this movie's no exception. I loved it. He's great directorial debut from him too. He should just keep directing his movies. Like like you did say, I think he's still trying to find his set style, but I really liked the editing in this film. I thought it was a well-made film altogether, so I really liked it.
Yeah, I absolutely really like this. My number 8 is, I guess, the horror movie of the year, Get Out.
Good to see another brother around here.
Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here. Get out. Sorry, man. Get out! Yo!
Sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Mine is a terrible thing to waste. Terrible thing to waste.
If there's too many white people, I get nervous.
No. No.
Mine is a terrible thing to waste.
I know. I stand alone in this room on this one. But I will stand alone triumphantly because I think this movie is fantastic. Rewatching it again, I noticed more how tight the script was. And this movie, it's like a love letter to classic horror, to atmospheric horror, like Rosemary's Baby and The Shining, movies I really like, and The Omen. I gotta mention, I was listening to the score of this, just because I was listening to movie scores for another video we're doing. There is a part of this score that I swear to God you could intersperse into The Omen, and you wouldn't even tell the difference. It is that terrific, and it honestly would fit really well. And that's a huge compliment, because I love the score to The Omen. Get Out, it's getting a lot of love because of obviously the political stuff it's talking about, and I think that's important too, but honestly, I don't think that's the only reason this movie's good. In fact, I would say the reason I personally love this movie is not because of that, but because of how darn unsettling it is and claustrophobically scary. You feel like throughout this film, like this guy's walking slowly and slowly into the trap by these people. You don't really know what's going on until it's too late, just like he does. And when you find out the twist of what's going on, it is kind of it's fantastical for sure, but it's done in a way that you buy it in this movie's universe, which any great horror movie can do that. I've bought sillier horror premises than this movie, guys. Let me just leave it at that. And I thought this film was fantastic. I thought the cinematography was very good. Jordan Peele, for a film debut, this was incredibly well crafted. Again, I don't know. It depends upon what you think the movie's saying, I guess. I like that the movie's at least saying something. It does add to an interesting layer about the film. And I think there are movies that talk about racism better. There's one that we'll talk about soon that does it better than Get Out. That being said, Get Out is still a terrific horror movie. If nothing else, it is unsettling, and I highly recommend checking it out. What do you think?
I disagree. Get
I know.
Okay, it has. Why I don't like it very much. Tonal inconsistencies, annoyances with the script, weird comedy moments that shouldn't be there. Stuff like that.
What in my most of the comedy moments? There is one that I agree with you on. It's the scene where the TSA agent goes.
Just everything with the TSA agent.
Yeah, he goes and visits the police woman, and she brings her other cop friends in. That was a stupid scene. That should have been cut. Where it's like, oh, let's just laugh at this guy for being an idiot.
And also
like,
just
okay,
that
really?
You just have to believe that this family is just, psychopathic in the end. And I just don't like. I think that's lazy, personally.
All right.
But we could do a whole video on Get Out, but let's not. Let's just keep going. All right, my number 7 is Dunkirk.
You're a weekend sailors, not the bloody Navy.
You should be at home.
There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do.
Turn it around!
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender.
So you brought Dunkirk up. I loved Dunkirk. And it's interesting you didn't really bring up Nolan, because Nolan is a filmmaker who's just really distinctive in his style, and Dunkirk's no exception. It really fits that Nolan style. Low on characters, high on visceral feeling, and just like you're on a thrill ride, and that's okay. This type of movie serves that well, because even though this isn't a character-driven war movie, you might be used to that if you're like watching Saving Private Ryan, right? You might be really used to those really strong characters. But where Dunkirk makes up for in character development, it makes up for in its just incredibly filmed action scenes. It is a beautiful movie to watch. I saw it in IMAX, 70mm, which is probably the best cinema going experience of the year. It was just a fantastic film to see in that format. The beaches that were wide, and the shots were huge, and it felt the sound pounding you. It felt like you're actually there. I loved like some of the sound design, the dive bombers, when you're just that, and then everyone's dropping to the ground. So how intense is that? You brought up the acting. I do want to mention that. First of all, you said Mark Rylance. Absolutely agree. Also, Kenneth Branagh is fantastic in the movie. He does a great job. Shows that he's still a very good actor as well as director. And Harry Styles in this film, and he's good.
Yeah, surprising.
Yeah,
it's good.
So I wonder if I read an interview with Nolan. He's like, I had no idea who Harry Styles was. My daughter had to tell me, like, you know who that is? And he's like, oh no, I don't know who Harry Styles is. But maybe it brought in some One Direction fans, but good for them, I guess. But overall, yeah, Dunkirk was a fantastic movie. Hans Zimmer's score is fantastic. Hoyt van Hoytema's cinematography, very impressive, blew me away. Great sound, everything you asked for in a war movie, it's there. You know, it's a different type of war movie. If you're not like used to Nolan's style, it might be a little disconcerting at first, but I'd say if you like Nolan as a filmmaker, if you like his type of movies, you're going to like Dunkirk, because it's basically his war movie.
Oh, it's absolutely. And I agree. And honestly, I didn't mention that, but I found the lack of one thorough main character totally fine. I actually thought that was interesting, and it gave a realism.
Mentioning that, the structure of the film is fascinating, you know, because it's got 1 week, 1 day, and 1 hour, and what a great way to edit a movie, because when the timelines cross, you're like, oh, look.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know what he was doing at first, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's cool how it works that way.
Yes.
Your number 7.
All right, my number 7. I mentioned before that Get Out talks about racism, but I think there's one better, and that is Detroit.
You don't know, I tell you. I was working security by Wisconsin, and on Tuesday night, we heard gunfire coming from the area near the Algiers. Police was there. There was a lot of shooting. When I went in there, 3 kids had been killed.
No. So they were killed right before you got there.
Sir.
You carry a 38, right?
Detroit is the movie that it kind of broke me watching this movie. This movie is one of the most sad things I've seen in a long time. It is based on a true events in the 1960s during the Chicago riots.
What?
I of course cannot remember the damn hotel name.
Wait. You just said something.
Or Detroit riots. Sorry, that was really stupid considering the movie's called Detroit. It is 4:30 in the morning, Shane. It is 4:30 in the morning. That is my excuse. And I think that's a good excuse because it's 4:30. Anyways, Catherine Bigelow does a terrific job directing this film. It is about these black men and 2 white women that were holed up in a hotel by these cops, and they were lined up against a wall and not allowed to leave because the cops believed they had a weapon on them, and they did not. It was a prank done by someone else, you know, without spoiling anything. And it is depressing, and you just get so angry. I felt literally angry, like I wanted to punch the film watching this film. And yes, it talks about police brutality, and yes, that is something that's being talked a lot about right now. And you know how much, you know,
it's very
are
timely
the
film.
Police actually brutal and stuff. And it's like, and yes, not all cops are brutal. If anyone says that, maybe
Well,
trying to learn a little bit about it.
Some good.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that. The movie shows good cops, too. The movie does not just show... By the way, Will Poulter, as the main villain cop, holy heck, this is my favorite role of his by far. I hope he does some, like, good person soon before he gets typecast, because I've only seen him as villain roles. Apparently, he's actually a really nice guy in real life, from what I've heard.
He's kind of half and half in The Revenant.
That's true. All right, I guess it's The Revenant. That's a good point. But he is terrific as this totally racist, horrible piece of crap cop that you just want to see just get his comeuppance. But what he does is so hard. Like, the way he is mentally torturing these poor guys just because he doesn't like the color of their skin. Like, it's disgusting and horrible. It really pounds in your head the worst parts of racism and why this was so horrible. And why, thank God, we're finally moving past this. Now, Get Out, terrific movie. It's a more fantastical look at racism. And I don't even know, you could argue what it's really saying. Like, let me just put it this way. Get Out, I don't feel bad for being white. I feel bad for being white watching Detroit a little bit. There's that little part of me goes, holy crap, I kind of hate white people right now. I just need to watch. And I'm no SJW, but by God, that movie tears into your soul. If you're any part of it, any sort of human being, it tears you apart.
Yeah.
And Catherine Bigelow is fantastic. The acting. John Boyega, very subtle performance in this film. That was terrific. Just because he knows not to say anything, but you just see the looks on his face of just disdain at these
He's
cops.
like an unlikely hero, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's like trying to get the middle ground between the cops and these black people that live in the apartment, but it's like you can just tell, like, he's just, like, wants to say something, but he knows he shouldn't. It's terrific. Terrific performances all around.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I will be mentioning that. Yeah, but next up, my number 6 is I, Tonya.
What can you tell us about Tonya Harding?
I don't know a Tony Harding.
Aren't you her bodyguard?
I made you a champion, knowing you'd hate me for it. That's the sacrifice a mother makes.
He cursed me. America. They want someone to love, but they want someone to hate. I mean, come on. What kind of friggin' person bashes in their friend's knee? Who would do that to a friend?
So yeah, still trying to keep it fast. I agree with you, Sean. This does feel like The Big Short. It's got The Big Short like mixed with Foxcatcher. It's like this weird sort of disconcerting, like weird story mixed with a lot of visual comedy, fourth wall breaks. I like the kind of style. When a filmmaker plays around with, their filmmaking style, is like, we're gonna do this interesting type of movie. I like it. I went along for the ride. I know a lot of people find fourth wall breaks distracting. I didn't mind it, especially with a movie that's basically inherently contradictory. That says out the outset, this movie will contradict itself. It's on purpose, because this is a tale that has many different sides, and we're not going to take a side. We're just going to show you what everybody says, and they do that through these nice kind of fourth wall breaking interviews to the camera, where these characters look back on their lives and try and give their perspective. And it's a great way to tell the story, because there's a lot of different perspectives. And what a weird story this is, because I'd heard of it. Tonya Harding was, like the movie mentioned, she was the second biggest person in the 90s next to Bill Clinton, basically. She was huge back then. It's like Lance Armstrong today, you would say. Yeah, and I remember hearing about her, but I didn't know the whole story, and I'm glad I saw this movie, because now the story is so fascinating. Seeing, first of all, Margot Robbie is fantastic as Tonya. It's a very interesting role to play, because it's kind of like, she seems at first like a grating, unlikable person who's just, this kind of almost disgusting human, but then at the same time, you realize where she came from, who her mother is, what happened to her during her life, how she was abused. And then you start to feel for her, and you actually start to like her by the end of the movie. And that's really tough to a movie, to take someone who at the outset, due to their appearance, even the skating judges say this during the movie, we don't like the way you look, we don't like the way you are, you don't embody skating. But then this movie gets you on her side, and it's like, you understand why she is the way she is, and you start getting angry at these judges, like, you got her wrong, She just wants to skate, and it should just be about skating in the end, right? They should be judged based on their talent. And she's extremely talented. You get to see these triple axel spins, and I was like clenching up on my seat. How
Yeah, I
scary
know.
that was. It's like, geez, how do people do that? Of course, I also need to mention Allison Janney as her mother. Fantastic performance. Definitely Oscar worthy. I really hope she wins. She just won the Golden Globe last week. She is so deserving of it. She is great in this role. You know, she's one of those actresses that can really pull off a lot of very different types of performances. She proved that here. Fantastic. Also, like you mentioned, Sebastian Stan is very good in the movie as well as her husband. All of them did a great job. But overall, I think it's just a nice story. It's just one of those fascinating true stories that you just want to hear about. And this movie presents it really well in a sort of unbiased but endearing way, where you leave the theater thinking, Tonya Harding, you know, she's pretty cool. You know, even though she did some really stupid things, you understand why.
Yeah, you feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Because it's circumstances and people around her that really put her where she is.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah. And I
really
love movies
her
like
fault,
that.
and
Absolutely.
at least the way it's portrayed.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. My number 6 is a little bit more uplifting than Detroit. It is Baby Driver.
Is he mental?
Mental meaning slow. Was he slow?
No.
He had an accident when he was a kid. Still has a hum in the drum. Plays music to drown it out. And that's what makes him the best.
One more job and I'm done.
One more job, and we're straight.
Now, I don't think I need to give you the speech about what happens when you say no, how I could break your legs and kill everyone you love, because you already know that, don't you?
Yeah.
The moment you catch feelings is the moment you catch a bullet.
And your waitress girlfriend, she's cute. Let's keep it that way.
I am an unabashed Edgar Wright fan. I love Edgar Wright's just quick editing style. His visceral, the way he shoots scenes is very visceral. And the way he shot this film, this is, I guess it's fine to say this because it's my least favorite Edgar Wright film, but I guess it's just how much I love his other films. Because this film is very well shot and very well edited. I love the way he basically came up with a playlist of songs that would be great for driving or great for running and great for action sequences and whatnot, and then wrote a script to outline with those songs and edit around it and came up with this movie. And it worked really well. The opener, like you said, the one shot is terrific. I love, the scene that's in the trailer when Baby's driving and he drives along the alleyway and this truck starts backing out, and then he does this like 360 or a 180 turn and backs around the truck.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's terrific. All choreographed, all real stunts. Ansel Elgort actually did several of the actual stunts. I don't know if he did that particular one. That
Probably not.
That
That
probably
looked
was
like a stunt
CGI.
driver.
But most of the other stunts though he did do, which is quite terrific. Edgar Wright is a fascinating writer and a director. You're right. Part of the stuff later on starts to kind of get a little slow in the second half.
It's a little silly.
It gets a little too serious, maybe, especially when the tone of the first half. Those are some of my problems with the movie. But this movie is overall really fun. It has a killer playlist, I gotta say, which is important for a movie like this. It's a fascinating way to make an action film that feels a lot of fun.
Stephen
watching.
Price did the score, and he's one of my favorite
Yeah.
composers. But I could barely hear a soundtrack, which is like,
Well,
darn it.
no, because most of it's pop music, which
Yeah.
works for the movie, so that's fine. It's a very interesting character. Ansel Elgort is great, like you said. Lily James is terrific as well. I like everything about this movie, and yes, I like Kevin Spacey in his, I guess it's safe to say, final role.
Maybe might be his final role.
Probably
We'll see.
final role. We'll see. Hey, I can still like the art that he's in, even if I don't like the artist anymore. But yeah, he's still terrific in this movie, and everything about this movie, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's definitely my kind of movie. But yeah.
The thing about that is, to address your point, I don't know about John Hamm as the villain. I got a little he's just a little too weird for me, and the whole end.
Yeah,
of the
he
movie's just
kind
a
of
little
becomes a villain. They kind of just switch over to him. It almost would have made more sense to have Jamie Foxx be the villain, as silly as he was.
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird movie towards the end.
Yeah,
That's what holds it back for me.
exactly.
But
Yeah, and kind
the
of
interesting thing is, you
well.
said it's number 6, and it's your least favorite Edgar Wright film. Does that make Edgar Wright like one of your favorite directors of
I
all
think
time?
I think that's the case. I don't know. I'd have to look at his other films because this is the least I think of his other films, and I'm like, yeah, I like those more. Maybe World's End. World's End might be a little lower. That's the only one I can maybe think of.
All right, the top 5. Here's the big ones. All right, starting off with my number 5, I have Wonder.
Who is it that I aspire to be? That is the question that we should be asking ourselves all the time.
Hey, Jack, come sit here. In a sec. I'd like to be able to control the weather. That would be your superpower? That sounds pretty lame. What would you do? I'd be invisible.
You're the toughest kid in that school. Show them.
You can't blend in when you were born to stand out.
So yeah, this movie did a lot for me, pretty much because this is kind of my kind of movie. When a movie is able to do this type of uplifting story really well, I'm going to fall for it. And I fell for Wonder. Yeah, so let's talk about the performances, because this movie really hinges a lot on them. First, let's talk about the parents, Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson. They're great in this movie. The Julia, again, it's late. Julia Roberts actually is notable because, you know, she was with this project from the beginning, and it's kind of, she's like producer and all that. And I was like, I hope, you know, she doesn't make this the Julia Roberts show. And she doesn't. She kind of steps back. She gives a realistic performance as the mother. She doesn't try to steal the spotlight from Jacob Tremblay, who's really the star of the movie. And let's talk about Jacob Tremblay, because, yeah, he is fantastic. Finally, we get another good performance from him, because I was getting sick of shut-ins and Book of Henry's. And okay, we get, like, you know, a really good movie. Not like he's bad in those movies, but it's like, thank you.
It's sad that he's in those movies. I think it's a good way to say it.
But, you know, obviously I love Room. Can't speak enough good things about Room. But, yeah, so he's great in this. Not probably as good as he was in Room, but pretty close, I'd actually say. Yeah, he's fantastic. I was really warmed up to his character by the end. I cared a lot about him. I felt for him. I felt his pain. You know, there were some scenes that I was just like, oh, that's so sad. Like, hearing, you know, how he was bullied, it just kind of like you cringe inside, and you're just so, because you care about him. It's like he's like your little brother by the end of the movie.
I know. It feels like that, yeah. Which
is really cool that the movie was able to do that. And like you said, I love that it goes into the sister. I think her story is interesting too, and her sister's friend and the whole dynamic. Even though it might seem like almost a sidestep, like a subplot.
It didn't really feel like that too much to me. I mean, maybe a tiny bit, but overall I feel like the segue worked.
I think it worked, and it was just an interesting story too. You know, I liked seeing how she was affected by Augie, and how she sort of became the forgotten one. You know, because Augie was the center of
he's the one that
system,
needs
right?
more, like, needs his parents a little more to actually watch over him more, and she's like, she's more independent. She's able to be just by nature.
Absolutely, yeah. And I really liked that. Yeah, and I said this right when I said the movie, but I think what really sold it was the performance of Noah Jupe. He is a newcomer. He was great in the movie, because I was worried at the beginning, because, like, they have this girl who's, like, not very good.
Oh, yeah, she's bad. Fortunately, she barely talks.
Yeah, she doesn't talk very much, and then she goes away, thank God. But then he shows up, and then it goes to his perspective, and I'm like, this kid's really good. Not only is that, he's British, and I couldn't tell. And usually I can tell.
Oh, I looked up an interview after I saw the movie. I'm like, this kid's freaking British.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, actually, I let you know, and because I wouldn't have known. But he's really talented, and I'm really happy to see he'll be in A Quiet Place next year, so I'll get to see him again, because he blew me away. He was really good. Like, he almost gave Jacob a run for his money, and I loved seeing them together. They had a really realistic friendship. You know, when they sort of do the sort of they get mad at each other thing, which happens a lot in these type of movies, but it's handled really well. It's realistic. And how it's resolved is also realistic. I talked about. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but I liked that. And this is another thing I mentioned to you, specifically Jacob's performance. He acts like a real child. A lot of movies don't don't write children, so they'll be like, oh, you know, they just write stupid dialogue that a kid would never say.
Yeah, they make him either sound too perfect, like it's this perfect little angel kid, or just it's awkward, just adults writing for kids,
like they don't understand what they're doing,
that don't know how they talk.
But Jacob, he's whiny when he needs to be. He's self-centered when he needs to be. He has all the faults that children have, and I like that. And that made the movie really engrossing. Mandy Patinkin's in this movie. I always love seeing Mandy Patinkin. I think he's fantastic. And overall, the cast all did a great job. Stephen Chbosky showed that he can adapt not just his own work, but other people's work really well. You didn't mention the book. Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It's R.J. Palacio, and it's also a fantastic book, too. So I definitely recommend people
I will have to read that.
Read that, because I'm in the middle of it, and I'm very interested. I've just been so busy watching movies, otherwise I would have finished it. But yeah, fantastic movie.
I do want to also say, Owen Wilson, yet again, a great performance.
Yeah, I mentioned,
It's a similar movie to kind of Marley and Me and those heartfelt, like, warm movies, and...
I love Marley and Me,
Yeah, he's terrific in that, he's terrific in this.
Yeah.
Alright, my number 5 is Lady Bird.
We're afraid that we will never escape our past.
Whatever we give you, it's never enough. It's never enough.
It is enough.
We're afraid of what the future will bring. We're afraid we won't be loved.
You can't do anything unless you're the center of attention.
We won't be liked.
Yeah, well, you know your mom's tits, they're totally fake. She made one bad decision at 19. 2 bad decisions.
And we won't succeed.
I want you to be the very best version of yourself that you can be.
What if this is the best version? What I'd really like is to be on Math Olympiad.
But math isn't something you're terribly strong in.
That we know of yet.
Now, I thought about this after seeing Call Me By Your Name, because I saw that after. And in a sense, they're kind of similar movies, because they're slow character films, where they really focus on one solo character for the whole film. But what makes Lady Bird more interesting is I think the dynamic between her and the people around her I found to be a little more confrontational and therefore a little more interesting to watch. And you really feel the realism in those scenes between her and her mother. Like you said, Leah Metcalf is...
Laurie
Metcalf. Gosh. Okay, this maybe should be the last podcast for tonight. Jeez. Laurie Metcalf.
Well, you're fine.
Laurie Metcalf is terrific. So is Saoirse Ronan. This is not her first role, but it's her first time I've really seen her. And I want to go back and watch some of her other films because she's a terrific actress in the lead role, and she'll be nominated for sure, possibly even win. We'll see. But she's terrific. And Greta Gerwig, I believe this is her directorial debut. Screenwriting debut too, I believe. She did write the film. Both were terrific. The writing is so fascinating. And just as we see her go through the year and all the things she interacts with, and all the people she interacts with. Like you said, the nuns, very humorous conversations. She pulls a prank on the nuns, and the reaction of the nun is not what you expect, and it's actually a really heartwarming moment.
I like that. A lot,
I like that. Like you said, I guess it's not like I'm like, oh no, they're portraying Catholics, they're gonna make us look horrible, but it's like, okay, let's see how this movie does it. And this movie was very respectful, and I made a few jokes.
Not saying that all movies have to be like perfect.
No,
Catholics,
okay, let me put it this way. I'm a Catholic. One of my favorite movies actually, my second favorite movie in 2015 was Spotlight.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. One, because it's about a true freaking story. I don't mind that. But I feel like sometimes it can be unnecessarily...
Well, I also feel like... Sorry, I know what you're saying,
evil.
but I feel like comedies can poke fun at it. I think.
Well, that's fine.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is you don't want it to be unfair to you.
Needless, I guess. If there's a necessary reason in the movie, I understand it. But if it's just like, oh, hey, look, this priest, he sucks because he's a Catholic priest or something. It's like,
well,
okay,
I think there's
really?
probably lazy movies out there that...
There are, and that's kind of what I react to. But fortunately, Lady Bird is not that. In fact, it's a very good movie that...
It reminds me of...
Oddly enough, would recommend to Catholics, I guess.
That reminds me of Prisoners, just real quick. I want to bring this up because
okay.
It's an interesting subversion because... Remember when you were like, oh no, they're doing the thing? And I think they knew this, because then they're like, oh, we're going to flip it. The priest is actually really good, because he's like keeping the pedophile away from all the kids.
Yeah,
and I'm
I was like,
smart
they have a
movie.
priest character in this movie where this girl is kidnapped and possibly raped. Okay, he's the pedophile, right? You're right.
But
yeah.
they totally like
Yeah,
flip it
they
on
do.
you. So that was actually one of the best handlings.
That was. I really appreciate
Sorry,
that.
just back to
But
what you're saying. I just
you're
want
right.
to point that out.
This movie is both funny and dramatic. It is, again, like you said, like the scene, the airport scene with the mother just there.
Just
Her daughter is
like
not-
she's driving away and she has this like serious composure and then she slowly breaks
I
down
know.
and then she has this look of like almost worry on her face and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, it's breaking my heart as I'm
And
watching
I was like,
it.
no, don't leave like this. And then, yeah, without spoiling what happens, it's a very sweet ending to the movie. And it feels completely real to how people really interact with each other, with their friends and whatnot. And I found this movie fascinating. I was enthralled throughout the movie, right from the beginning when Lady Bird jumps out of her moving car after having an
Just
argument
cuts
with
to her
her
having
mother.
a cast, which is
Which
brilliant
is
editing.
amazing for the whole film. I believe the whole film, right? Most of the film, she has
No,
a cast.
towards the end
No,
she
you're
doesn't.
right, she doesn't.
Yeah.
Towards the end. But a big chunk of the film, she has this cast, and it's right from there. I was like, I'm in love with this character. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm in love with this freaking character.
Hops out of the car.
It's amazing. Yeah, I was enthralled, and I want to see this movie again. I highly recommend people check this one out. It's a very good movie.
Absolutely. All right, my number 4 is The Florida Project.
Yeah, sure do. $38 a night.
Okay, I warned you. One drip and you're out.
Oh, come on!
Out now.
It's gonna melt outside.
It's melting inside, too.
But Bobby,
Out?
Thank you very much.
you're not welcome. Whoa. Let's go. Come on.
This film I just caught a few days ago, and I'm glad I did. This movie is one of those experiential films, and was the best of the year for me. I thought this movie did a fantastic job portraying a type of character and a type of setting that we rarely see. It is, of a poverty-stricken grandmother, actually, because it's funny because her daughter is never seen in the movie, but she's taking care of this little girl. It was like 6 or 7 year old girl, and it might even be younger than that, actually, like 5 or something. She's pretty young, and her daughter's MIA, irresponsible according to her. So she's taking care of her granddaughter, and she is not what you would consider an ideal mother. She swears, she's drugs, she's poor, she makes her money through prostitution, but they have a rapport with each other that you can't help but just love. How this mother and this daughter get along. I mean, this daughter, she's not behaviorally great either. She pulls pranks on people. She gets people mad at her. She at one point turns off the power of the entire apartment complex, which doesn't satisfy people very much. But it's a joy to watch. First of all, I want to give a lot of credit to the young girl. Let me remember her name because I don't actually remember off the top of my head. Pulling it up here, but she's really fantastic. Brooklyn Prince, I believe, is that's her. She's really good in the movie. Just as this little girl, she's like unforgettable as this girl who hangs out with some not so great people, and you can already see the beginnings of a misbehaving girl, but you can tell why she's in this terrible situation with their mother and sort of stuck in poverty, and they just haven't had the best life, and it's a very interesting story in that way. And Willem Dafoe's also in this movie. He gives a very subtle yet brilliant performance as the building manager. I really loved his role. It's obvious he really cares, but he doesn't know how to express that sometimes. I love his scenes with Brooklyn Prince. They're just fantastic. This manager dealing with this little girl running around causing trouble all the time. It's really adorable to see their relationship.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. And also Brie Vinite, that's a hard name to pronounce. She's the grandmother. She's also great. She's again not like the ideal character. She's not the ideal mother. But when something happens that tries to split up the daughter and the grandmother, you really feel for her, and you don't want this to be happening because it's heartbreaking to see what happens. But Yeah, the acting is just really good. That's what sells this movie. And so is the direction. I have to give a lot of credit to, I think it's Sean Baker is his name. Yeah, Sean Baker. He's a director. I think this is his first movie that I've seen, but I think he's done a few more like independent movies. But he does a fantastic job. I love the experiential style. I love the setting. The cinematography is great. A lot of like one shots, which I like. Yeah. I just really like this movie. It's just one of those like experiential movies. It's you can just have it on, kind of relax and get enveloped in this world of these characters. And it ends at Disney World. That's not really a spoiler because it's just interesting, but it does. Apparently, the director filmed it on his iPhone without the permission of Disney. He just
that sounds
ran
hilarious.
in with an iPhone and filmed this girl.
I'm sure it's better than that terrible
Escape
Disney
from
horror
Tomorrow.
movie I saw. Escape from Tomorrow was awful.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting that scene was filmed there because obviously that's not something Disney likes.
No, yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, there you go.
All right, I need to see this. I feel bad that I didn't have a chance to see it.
That's all right.
My number 4 is, of course, Stephen King's It.
I saw something. There was this
Clown. Yeah, I saw him too.
Look. It's all connected by the sewers. That's where it lives. What happened? Bill?
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
I absolutely adored this movie. This movie was everything I wanted to see. And like you, I was kind of like, okay, the trailers... I kind of like the trailers more, but I was still like, okay, don't screw this up. I hope this doesn't suck. And I was very pleasantly surprised because this movie was scary. It was unsettling. And like you said, the kids act like kids. It was a messing of two things I love. Spielberg 80s movies and Stand By Me. And Nightmare on Elm Street, I guess.
Yeah.
If I could compare this film to one horror film, it'd be Nightmare on Elm Street 3, honestly. I'm gonna talk
I think
about
the
this.
director was really inspired by
Oh,
Nightmare
absolutely. The movie begins with them working on this paper boat, like the book does, but the way it's shot, it's like the credits over like close-up shots of the paper being folded. And it's exactly like if you've seen that Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. It's exactly like how that movie opens with the house being made. Yes, I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street geek. Can you guys tell?
That's why he loves the Nightmare 5 reference.
Okay, we have a... I wasn't going to get into that. 'Cause that's
I
an
love
inside
that
joke.
moment.
But okay, you know what? Do you want me to let the floor open to you for this joke? Or?
I'll just really quickly explain it. So,
All right.
My friend and I have a joke with Sean because he's in love with Nightmare on Elm Street that we think it's funny we thought it was funny to say that Sean really loves Nightmare 5. We just think him saying Nightmare
Because
5
the movie
is funny.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5 Dream Child sucks, but I guess it's funny. Can I?
Oh, he said it's a guilty pleasure.
It is a guilty pleasure.
No,
but
it's
a bad
literally just
movie.
because it sounds stupid. Because we know you would describe it not as Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the Dream Child, whatever it's called. You would describe it as Nightmare 5, and that sounds stupid, and that's the joke. And of course, we're in the theater, and this camera swoops down over the movie
Mind you,
theater
we're in
sign.
an IMAX theater too, so it's even bigger.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5 in giant letters, and I lose it in the theater. It was incredible.
And I'm like saying it like, oh, okay, I can't do anything. I gotta let him have it. But hey, it was appropriate because it makes sense. Pennywise is a lot like Freddy Krueger. You know, he's a wisecracking. You know, he kidnaps kids, and he terrorizes them, and he recreates the things they most fear. It's exactly like Freddy Krueger, actually. And it's a great parallel. And I just want to talk more about the movie now. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise was terrifically scary, terrifically memorable, and that guy will give you nightmares. And I love the opening. Like you said, it's basically, if you read the book, it's verbatim the first chapter of the book. With Georgie. It does it better than the miniseries by far. Dear God,
Where he
by
just goes,
far.
and
then
zooms
it
in on his
fade cuts
face.
away to the funeral.
So terrible.
Which is not even in the book, because they find the body down river or something, but they never have a funeral in the book. They did change that up, I guess, where they have a thing where he's missing. That's not even a spoiler, because that's from the beginning. And that's an interesting dynamic with his older brother, Bill, played by Jaden Lieberher, like you brought up, and which is fine. And I liked the actor who plays him, and he's much better than he is in Book of Henry. That's for darn sure.
Really?
And like you said, the kid actors were great. They felt like real kids. Bringing Finn Wolfhard, of course. Stranger Things tied. Stranger Things is inspired by it and a lot of 80s stuff, so it made sense.
Perfect casting.
It was perfect casting, and he's great as Richie. It is weird they threw in, I mean, for book fans, I'll always bring this up. It's weird they just throw in the line, beep, beep, Richie, which is a huge thing in the book. Like, it's to get Richie to shut up. His friends will say, beep, beep, Richie in the book.
I think it was just probably an illusion.
But it's
to
like a
people,
cameo thing in
fans of
the
book.
movie, but it's like, why even say it, at that point. But anyway, I don't mind that they changed the setting from the 50s to the 80s. Again, I think that makes sense for the time period, and it'll allow it to be a more modern time, I guess. They changed a bit about the characters. I don't like that they now give Mike nothing to do, because now he'll have nothing to do in part 2, I guess, because they don't make him the history buff, because that was his whole thing. He has nothing. And so basically both the token minorities have nothing to do. I just want to point out. So does the Jewish kid Stan, but who cares about Stan? He was always the least interesting kid in the group.
And we all who read the book know what happens to Stan.
Or saw the miniseries, yes. We all know. But anyway, the movie's very terrifying. I love the score and the cinematography. Everything about it is very terrifically made horror film. It's unsettling. It brings me back to all those great 80s horror films that I love. It's just a terrific horror movie. It's my favorite horror movie of the year.
All right. My number 3. I realize this video is getting long.
Yeah, this video is really freaking long.
My number 3 is Detroit.
But change is coming.
Told you what I saw. I'm trying to help here.
Kids, what's the matter with you?
They're gonna kill us, man. I need you to survive the night. Survive the night.
So you brought this up already. I'm going to talk about Detroit now. Now, Detroit is totally my kind of movie. It's a thriller. It's dark. It's creepy. It's terrifying, and I loved it. Yeah, you were right. The message of the movie is definitely something that I got upset about. I was like, I cannot believe this happened. It was enraging. It was just scary that people actually went through this. And honestly, thinking about the situation, it's like, what a terrifying situation, because even if you fought back and tried to get out, you would have been prosecuted for assault of a police officer and murdered, even if you ended up killing them. There is literally no escape out of this situation. Absolutely no escape. You can't fight back. You can't do anything. You can only hope you say the right thing and hope you do the right thing. Hope you get lucky enough to make it out alive. How scary is that? That was just terrifying. Yeah, all the actors do a great job. L.G. Smith, who's brand new, I thought he was fantastic in the movie.
Yeah.
Also, John Boyega, as you mentioned, is great. But Will Poulter, let's talk about him, because you were right. He's a very scary villain. I love how this movie takes you through the events of the night. And to be fair, a lot of people think this is about the riots. It's in the context of the riots.
Yeah.
But it's about the Algiers Motel. It's about what happened in this motel.
Thank you. That was the name I could not think of earlier.
Yeah. So it's about those events. But you need the context of the riot to understand what's going on, because that establishes the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And that establishes what's going on between the police and the citizens. And it gives you the understanding to know why these police would march in there like that, but also why the minorities in the hotel would be really terrified of the police.
Yeah.
And yeah, over the course of the movie, you are so scared, you're so creeped out, you almost get sick to your stomach by what happens. It's not a pleasant viewing. but
No.
it's visceral, it's thrilling. If you like thrillers, you'll love this type of movie. And it's also something that makes you think. And it's something that is scary because not much has changed. Sure, is this overt systemic racism been curtailed slightly? Yeah, sure, maybe. Something like this might not happen today. But at the same time, shootings of police on black people happens all the time. One happened very close to us here. And the cops walk. And that's the thing. A lot of this movie is devoted to the trial. I'd say the last third. The movie does delve into that. And it's not a happy ending either. So these things are hardly resolved in a way that feels, satisfactory. That's just what's terrifying about these type of stories. They don't end with justice a lot of times. They end with, injustice essentially, and it's enraging. But I thought Detroit was fantastically made. Catherine Bigelow proves yet again she's great at adapting true life stories into thrilling films. She got Barry Ackroyd to do the cinematography. He did a fantastic job. All that handheld shaky cam. He is the king of shaky cam. I will always say, if you want to do shaky cam, get Barry Ackroyd. He knows how to do it. But yeah, I thought Detroit was a great movie. Very good, well done. It's too bad it'll be overlooked at the Oscars because I really think it was worthy.
Yeah, it just came out too early and people kind of forgot about it.
It didn't make enough money. Yeah.
But I think it was very underrated this year.
All right, your number 3.
My number 3 is Wind River.
My family's people were forced here. Stuck here for a century. That snow and silence. It's the only thing that hasn't been taken from them. I need emergency assistance. The Wind River Indian Reservation.
I'm Jane Banner, FBI.
That's Corey Lambert. He's the one who found the body.
Didn't you people get the memo that it's spring?
Welcome to Wyoming.
I knew that girl. She's a fighter.
This is a homicide.
What are you doing? I'm a hunter. What do you think I'm doing?
Which was a very surprising thriller. I remember the trailers for it. I remember it looked good, but it blew me away when I saw it. Taylor Sheridan, of course. I love Sicario and I love Hell or High Water. And this is his directorial debut, as well as he did write it. And this is just as terrific as those. It might be... Sicario is still my favorite, but this is my second favorite of those 3. It is visceral. It is completely engaging. It is claustrophobic because it's just out in these just forest wilderness, basically. And it's about this woman that is found dead by Jeremy Renner when he is out hunting for wild animals. Basically, he protects people's livelihoods and families by keeping like mountain lions and stuff away from where they might be encountering kids and other people by hunting them. And he comes across this dead body. The FBI is brought in, and Elizabeth Olsen comes in as the only FBI agent who bothers to come. And you really get the sense that even though there's an FBI agent, they're still on their own. And this community is still really a very small, tight-knit community and is really dependent upon Jeremy Renner here to get to the bottom of this. And Elizabeth Olsen, she doesn't not do anything. It's not like that. She actually does. Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like that at all, because she does definitely have a big role in the film. The acting is impeccable. There are just these scenes, moments by characters where they just really just break down and are like, my life is terrible and here's why, and here's why this is horrible for me and stuff, and this is what I'm going through. And Jeremy Renner's character is going through a lot of stuff. This movie is a very terrific thriller. It is gripping, and there's a shootout in this movie that is not like any normal film shootout. It feels like a real, actual standoff shootout. And it's terrifically filmed and terrifically choreographed, I guess, and acted. This whole movie, it's gripping from beginning to end, and you feel the claustrophobia even though they're outside most of the movie, I said. And it's just a terrifically well-written, well-directed film. And definitely it's worth seeing. This movie's amazing, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm guessing Sean will be able to predict my number 1 after I say my number 2. So
I can probably predict.
We'll give the drum roll now.
All right.
My number 2 is Wind River.
Should we just maybe wait for some backup?
This isn't a land of backup, Jane. This is a land of you're on your own.
Oh my God.
Wolves don't kill unlucky deer. You kill the weak ones.
You don't think I can make it?
Out here.
You cannot blink. Not once, not ever.
Hey! FBI!
Get your hand off that weapon!
Yeah, believe it or not, I have the same, consecutive pick, I guess. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Wind River is fantastic. It is that kind of movie I really love. When I saw the movie at first, I'm like, wow, this will be tough to beat. I was right. It didn't go down very far, as you can tell. First of all, I love these kind of dark, noirish police investigation of murder movies. It reminded me a lot of kind of like Zodiac, which is a movie I love, Yeah, I really liked this. I love Jeremy Renner's character. I loved how it portrays this Indian reservation, because things work a little bit differently there. They don't really have the funding that a major city would have, even though Elizabeth Olsen is sent out to help as FBI. She's eventually sent back because they're like, it's not our department.
Yeah.
And she stays anyway despite that. But it's interesting to see, because it's portraying these communities that not a lot of people know a lot about. Indian reservations, people don't know a lot about them, and I didn't either. First of all, Wind River looks like a beautiful Indian reservation. It's just fantastic location, and it was shot on location too, which is really cool. I want to go visit Wyoming now. Let's go. No, but it really is pretty, and yeah, all the cast do a great job. Jeremy Renner is fantastic. Elizabeth Olsen's fantastic. Gil Benningham, is that his name? Or
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, Gil Birmingham. I was really close. Gil Birmingham. He's in Hell or High Water, another Taylor Sheridan film. He plays one of the father of the victim, and his portrayal is great too. I really liked him in the film. Yeah, but what I really liked about this movie is it's thrilling, it's intense, you want to figure out the mystery with the characters. The writing's fantastic. Taylor Sheridan is proving to be one of the best writers of our day. You're smiling. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just.
Anyway.
Nothing. Just tired.
Yeah, I really liked, like you said, the shootout. It's fantastic. It's the scariest thing that I've seen on screen this year, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is so intense. I don't want to tell much more about it, but just say it's scary. I love the moment when the cop's like, "Did you see that?" And he's like, he puts his gun away. You didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I just love that little acting from that little actor. He did a great job. Yeah, even the minor characters do a great job in this film. Yeah, overall, I loved Wind River. I thought it was fantastic. The cinematography is breathtaking. The score is fantastic, haunting score. Mm-hmm. And by the end, this feeling you get, not many movies make me feel that way. That's why this movie is definitely up for a possibility of raising to 5 stars for me. It's one of the 2 this year that I could see getting there, because I love this movie. It's right up there with Sicario for me. Those 2 are neck and neck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved Wind River.
I have this weird feeling now after talking about it that I'm going to wish I put this at number 2 eventually when I rewatch it. But I do love this other film, and yes, am I biased? Yes, I am.
I know it's...
I'll admit it. It's obvious. It's Logan.
And you could have it all. My empire of dirt. I will let you down. I will make you hurt. I will keep myself. I would find a way.
Logan.
2. That's my next pick. Because I'm an unabashed X-Men fan, and I will say this movie, just as a film, is a terrific, absolutely terrific versatile film. It is gripping, and it is not just action-packed, but it's dramatic, and it's a great road trip movie. I love these kind of post-apocalyptic kind of movies like this. You know, I love that look, you know, of those kind of movies, you know, and video games like this, like Fallout and stuff. I have not played The Last of Us. I know everyone compared this to The Last of Us. I feel bad now, especially. The problem is I don't have the system that plays The Last of Us. I need to get a PS3. But anyway, this movie is terrific. And yeah, like you said, it's a terrific end to Wolverine and to Professor X. I actually do both the first 2 times I saw it, not so much the third time, but I did tear up at the end. It's a very sad but satisfactory, sweet ending. And the movie, even though I haven't seen the film, I've read the book. It reminds me a lot of the book Shane, and obviously they reference Shane in the film, and I think that's very appropriate.
They show scenes of Shane.
Very appropriate to the character of Wolverine. I think that was a very smart pick on James Mangold's part to incorporate that.
I love Shane.
Yeah, I think Hugh Jackman.
Not biased.
Okay. I didn't see the movie. I love the book. I remember reading the book a long time ago, and I loved it.
I can't believe they didn't show you the movie after you.
I know. Yeah, we went to the same school, and we read it in school, and I loved it, and they never showed us the movie, of course.
Don't understand.
God forbid. But anyways, this movie is incredible. And yes, the villain is kind of weak, but fortunately, it doesn't really focus on the villain enough. And for me, I'm fine with that. Because the characters are so gripping. Logan, Patrick Stewart's character, Professor X. God, I'm tired. And
that's right.
X-23, Daphne Keane, who is a new actress. She's terrific. Like, just think about it. She has to act silent for most of this film amongst 2 Titan, just A-list, terrific actors. And she holds her own in a lot of ways. She holds her own against Hugh Jackman later when she does have to talk. And literally take the wheel as they're driving to their destination, and Hugh Jackman is getting more and more sick.
Yeah.
And it's a very, like I said, a sweet movie, and it's a great finale. There feels like a great finality to these characters that we've grown to love for 10 years, and even just not as a fanboy, it's a great film, and as a fan of X-Men, I'm very happy with this film. It is gripping. I love gritty R-rated films, and this gave me a lot of gritty R-rated film. That was not a word, but again, whatever. And I absolutely love this movie. I love the score. I love the cinematography. This was my movie. This was hey Sean, you're gonna be biased, but it's okay. This is a movie for you.
That's okay. That was kind of Wind River for me, so
yeah,
fair enough.
All right, I think we both have the same number 1. Unless you absolutely have a weird pick that you threw up there. And
there's a strange
else.
Omission from your list, Sean.
Yeah, I wonder which one it might be.
It's a similar omission to mine.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's just say it.
Okay.
My number 1, well, it's my turn, so I guess I'll say it.
Yeah, you'll say it.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is my favorite movie of the year. How about you?
Oh, mine was Justice League.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
no, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, of course.
Hey, you. What the hell is this?
Advertising, I guess.
I could arrest you right now if I wanted to.
Before you do that, how about you go have yourself a look at that first billboard over there?
You ain't trying to make me believe in reincarnation or something, are you? Because you're pretty, but you ain't her.
But the town is dead set against these billboards.
You know who threw that can?
What can?
How about you, sweetheart?
No, I didn't really...
In 3, 2, 1. And as sad as the spectacle of these billboards might be,
Go, girl.
this reporter, for one, hopes this finally puts an end to the strange saga of the 3 billboards outside.
This doesn't put an
Ebbing,
end to
Missouri.
anything. This is just a start. Why don't you put that on your Good Morning Missouri wake-up broadcast, bitch?
So I guess we can just talk about this together.
Yeah.
So I'll start us off. First of all, I'm a huge Martin McDonagh fan. I love In Bruges. I love Seven Psychopaths. This is his best movie. I think it's clear. And it's coming from someone who loves the other two movies. But jeez, this movie does even more than those movies did. Not only does this movie make you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you feel, it makes you angry, it makes you sad, it makes you everything. You know, like a movie that's just so emotionally resonant is just something I have to give credit to. And Martin McDonagh is a master with the script, and I'm sure you'll talk about this too, but he is a fantastic writer of characters. I've never seen someone develop characters as well as Martin McDonagh. He's shown such a talent at creating characters that feel like nothing you've ever seen before. Not only did he do that with In Bruges, with both Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson's characters, who are fantastic, and Ralph Fiennes. They're all great.
Fiennes too, yeah.
Seven Psychopaths, he created 7 extremely fascinating characters in a very meta movie, and I love that. Yeah, absolutely love the characters there, but the characters in this movie's more dramatic, so it doesn't take as much license with its characters. It tries to keep the world grounded, right? And I loved that in this film, that it's a grounded film. It's trying to like make you think this could really happen, but at the same time it's, you know, making you laugh and making you feel all these different feelings. And I love that about this film. I'll let you go. Sorry.
No, I agree with everything you just said. Terrific characters. Love Frances McDormand, first of all.
Yeah, I was going to get into the acting.
Oh my God.
First, yeah, or with you. I can get in with you.
Sure.
If you want to go into that.
Terrific performance. That's had to be my favorite performance from her since Fargo.
It's really hard to beat Fargo, but she gives herself a run for her money because she's really good in this.
Like, she's really tough, but it's just heartbreaking to watch what she's going through with trying to figure out what happened to her daughter and stuff. And she still has this kid, Lucas Hedges. Wants me to be so tired I actually got that wrong, but no, I'm pretty sure it's Lucas Hedges. Okay, good. Jeez. You were reacting, so I was worried for a second. Lucas Hedges is terrific as this.
He's good. He's probably the weakest in the movie.
He is, but that's amongst a lot of other great actors. But he's still like this understated performance where he's just like, hey, I'm still here. You want to pay attention to me? But...
All right, you mentioned Woody Harrelson. I'll mention the other.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, you want me to mention Woody Harrelson first? Oh, sorry. Woody Harrelson is also terrific as this cop, and I like how his character's written. Because at first, you're totally on Frances McDormand's side. Like, hey, why haven't you done anything to find my daughter? You know, it's like, yeah, why haven't you done anything to find her? What the hell? And then you realize slowly, as we're introduced to his character, like, no, this guy's a good guy. He's tried. The problem is sometimes there's just not evidence. Period.
I love the scene when they're sitting on the bench and just
Yeah.
having that heart-to-heart talk, and it's fantastic. I also love the scene of them in the police station because, you know, they're butting heads, they're against each other, and then all of a sudden, Woody Harrelson
the way
shows,
the scene is interrupted.
Well, he shows some signs of that he's not feeling too well. Instantly, Frances McDormand turns on the, "Oh, are you okay?" You know, and it's nice to see that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, because she's written like a real human. Like a real human would be like, "Oh crap." Yeah.
Yeah, because she still cares about the guy. That she's just angry at him. You know, it's kind of like that thing, which is really great. But can I mention?
Go ahead.
So it's a little known fact that my favorite actor is Sam Rockwell, and yay, he's in this movie.
Hey Shane, who's Sam Rockwell?
Apparently, nobody still knows who Sam.
What
Rockwell
the heck? I love Sam Rockwell. Not as much as you, but I love Sam Rockwell.
He has been trying so hard to make a career, even though he's probably one of the most talented actors alive. Thankfully, Martin McDonagh has given him a chance to really break through here, because he is fantastic, almost career best in this movie. He is so good as a racist, kind of dumb, lovable, you know, just off the wall crazy cop.
Yes.
Who embodies everything about strange you can possibly imagine.
He seems at first like he's just going to be your stereotypical, almost white trash.
A douchey, white trash, racist cop with a beer belly.
But then the way it's written and his acting, it takes a turn about halfway through where he actually gets redeemed. And it's
we don't want to go into too much detail.
Okay, sorry, man.
No, it's fine. It's just we don't want to go into too much detail.
Yeah, I don't want to go
to
into
see the movie.
But yeah, and I love that they did that with his character because you don't see that often. As a character, especially like that, like a racist character, especially in this day and age, you do not see that in movies often where they actually get redeemed.
Yeah,
and I thought that was interesting to show that because hey, guess what? They're horrible people, but they're still people, guys.
They're humans, yeah.
Yeah.
And he even tells you kind of where he gets it from, because they show a lot with his mother and the type of relationship he has with her, and how she's not a very great human being.
Right.
So, obviously, he's been raised in this environment that is not, ideal for an upbringing, and he's kind of raised in sort of this poverty environment. So, you get why he is the way he is. But you also, even when he does something terrible, you understand why he does it, and there's some human qualities to him that you really start to like. And when he does redeem himself, it feels so fulfilling, to see a character just come through like that and surprise you.
Yeah.
I love it when characters are able to surprise you. And Martin McDonagh did something similar with Brendan Gleeson's character in Bruges. I always bring that up. But, where the character surprises you, does things that you didn't expect. He's really good at that, and the way he writes the characters in this movie is no exception. Just fantastic characters, and I love seeing just like the politics of this town, like this little town, and seeing how everyone works together.
Yeah.
So
no, it's really good in that way. It's dramatic. It's funny too. I guess this is his least funny movie.
Well, because it's not like a straight up comedy,
but it's a very serious subject, so it'd be a little hard to make. It'd be a little hard to make a drama about a woman who is raped be funny, obviously, for very obvious good reasons. But
yeah, well, I liked how they handled the daughter character, because she's never on screen for that much, but we get a really good idea of the relationship.
I think all we get is
her.
like one flashback scene,
we get the flashback where she leaves, and that would stick out in her mind too. So it makes sense that we get it, because that's the last time that they talked. And
it's like such a sad scene because it's an argument. And usually that's very stereotypical, like, oh, why did I argue with this person and then now they're dead? But the way it's done, it felt like this would happen to people, and this has happened to people, and then, like, maybe nothing that horrible, but, like, a car accident happens or something, and they're dead now. You can't do
I just
anything about
love... Okay, I have to use this word, because it's the best word I have to use.
Okay.
How badass Frances McDormand is. You're just cheering for her the whole time. When she's throwing down, you're like, you get him, girl. You're like, she's the strongest female lead of the year. She just owns everything. I love the scene. This is the funniest scene in the movie. When she's railing on the Catholic priest who's there to just... Oh, he's here to console her, and he's like, she calls him on his shit, and I was cheering in my seat. I was like, yes, she is awesome. I loved that scene. I loved several scenes like that, like with her and the sheriff do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely adored that. Yeah, so like I said, there is comedy, and when it's there, it's really funny. It does work really well.
For sure.
But I just love that kind of stuff. And even Peter Dinklage is in this movie, and he is so just kind of weird, but also just in a great, endearing way, And, I just... What did I say? I love the movie. Okay.
Yeah, this is like... It's a beautifully shot film. It's all these elements of film brought together so well. I absolutely adored this movie from start to finish. I was like enthralled, in love with this movie, and I wanted. I think I actually turned you afterwards. I'm like, hey, is there another showing after this? Like, can we just like see this again? Like,
I wish we had time. I wanted to see it again.
I know.
I was in the scramble to see all the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
There.
Problem is, we also saw it late, and it's left theaters probably by now. Actually, it might still be there. I don't know.
I will definitely buy this day one on Blu-ray.
Absolutely,
it's definitely worth owning. And
people should check this one out, and I'm just gonna throw out a recommendation. Check out In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths as well. Those are terrific dark comedies.
Which I had to introduce to you.
Yeah, I'd heard of these movies. I had never seen them, and now that I've seen them, I'm like, holy hell, these movies are amazing.
Now you know a little bit more about Martin McDonagh.
Yes, he is a terrific comedic director and writer.
Got a bright future.
Yeah, absolutely.
He actually says personally he prefers writing films, so I hope he continues to make more, because
I could see that.
I'm already excited for his next movie, whenever it might come.
Yeah, seriously.
He will not. I don't think he'll disappoint.
Yeah, his writing is terrific.
But here's pulling for this movie at the Oscars.
Oh, come on.
I don't know how it will do.
If nothing else, I would be fine with everything. As long as Sam Rockwell gets Best Actor, Best supporting actor.
I want two things. I want Frances McDormand for Best Actress, and I want Sam Rockwell for Best Supporting
That
Actor.
probably will happen too.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, fingers crossed for Sam Rockwell. Come on, man.
He deserves it at this point. After so many amazing performances.
Right.
I commented on a post because someone was like, oh, what did they say? They were like, oh, like, when has he ever been snubbed before? And I'm like,
Moon.
The Way, Way Back, Conviction.
I haven't seen that one.
The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I mean, that's just Frost Nixon. Yeah, I mean, just little tiny roles that he just makes so memorable. He's so good at that. Seven Psychopaths, even. You know?
Oh God, he's terrific in Seven Psychopaths.
I think he's my favorite part of the movie.
Not that he got snubbed for this, but he's even good in the Poltergeist remake, which I will say is an underrated remake.
It is.
I would honestly say that.
I like him in that. You know, I was happy to see my buddy Sam in that, and it's always good to see him. Hopefully, he gets more roles from this film, though. This exposure.
Yeah, that would be great.
He deserves it. You know. I really think he'd actually be a really good A-lister. You know, I always thought I could have totally seen him in a role like Ant-Man. I'm like, dang it. Too bad he was already in the MCU because they should just cast Sam Rockwell because he would have really worked in a role like that. You know, he's really funny.
Paul Rudd is funny as Ant-Man, but Sam Rockwell would have killed it.
Yeah, he just has that nice, great comedic nature to him.
Mm-hmm.
Not like he can't play serious roles. Watch Moon.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. But he just has this, like, sly, like, way of comedy that's, like, perfect.
Mm-hmm. And he's great in this film.
And he's just like, he's so welcoming, like when he's like in his acting almost, and it's terrific. But yes, that is our best of list.
Yeah, I know that was long, but
that was really
obviously we take a year to build up to this, so there's a lot of thoughts to get out. So yeah, it's been a long night, and we still have some terrible movies to talk about. So
what are you talking about? We didn't see any terrible movies.
Oh, you're right. They were all good.
Yeah.
That was all the movies we saw this year, guys. We obviously weren't stupid enough to see something bad.
No, we didn't purposely go out of our way to see movies we knew we would hate and see them anyways because we're freaking masochists. No, not at all. I'm not a masochist, I swear.
I imagine us often as Paul Bettany from Da Vinci Code. You might not get this reference yet, but just self-whipping ourselves with January.
I can imagine.
It's like, yep, that's us. Yeah, but thank you guys for listening to this. I understand it's a long podcast, but that was our favorites of the year. Stay tuned. We got a couple podcasts coming up. So the next one is going to be our worst.
Of course.
Which will be shorter. We won't have as much to say about those. And also our Oscar, personal Oscar list. And that will
not our Oscar predictions, mind you.
Predictions will come later.
Yes. This is just, we're making up our own Oscars. We have those categories, but that's it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Oscars. We'll probably predict winners after the nominees are announced.
Yeah, no.
Then we can maybe talk a little bit about the Oscars. But as for right now, yeah, we're just going to do our personal opinions because we like doing those. And stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for listening. And we'll catch you really soon with the next episode.
All right. See you guys later.
See ya.